Welcome back to NUIC Football, joined by Logan, Swan. I am your host, Kyle Kampmier. Joe Merdian and Jay Doyle are going to join us later, as usual, to talk about eight-man football. But right now, we're going to take a look back at round 2 of the IHSA playoffs. We're going to take a look ahead to the quarterfinals of IHSA. And then we're going to take a look across the state. And I tell you what, Logan, I've been feeling the heat from the Florida Wolves fans all week long. I even had the guidance counselor of all people reach out to me and say, "Why do you keep picking against us?" Hello, you were 0-14 before you ever got into the playoffs. Whether you want to believe it or not, the Black Diamond Conference just does not have a great reputation when it comes to the playoffs.
No.
That's just the facts. I mean, let's be real and honest with ourselves. That's the facts. Am I excited for what Florida is doing right now? 100%. I love
awesome.
underdog stories. I think what they're doing is captivating the audience across the state of Illinois.
It's awesome.
I've shared a lot of their stuff to our NUIC football Facebook page. In fact, that's how exciting it is when you get into the playoffs, because you get these Cinderella runs. And granted, they are a 4 seed, right? They're 8-1 on the year, now 10-1 heading into this quarterfinal round. But let's be honest, when you take a look at the whole history of it all, this is a Cinderella story for Florida.
Yeah, this is their first time winning a playoff game ever this year, and in doing so, they reached the quarterfinals on a 43-yard field goal in the last second. We'll see if they can keep it going. You know, the team they lost to Moreau Forsyth 41-6 last week, so they got an uphill battle, but we'll talk about that one later.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
but anyway,
it is.
so some of the games that stood out last week, obviously Flora with that 17-14 win over Pena on a 43-yard field goal. The kick in itself by Parker Helm was just amazing.
It had some more leg.
Man, he had plenty of leg for
It
that
had
field
more.
goal for one, but to be in that kind of a pressure situation, in a situation you've never been in an environment that was raucous. I mean, you could feel the energy of the crowd coming through every single camera angle. I watched it from 3 different cameras, and you could feel the energy every time.
Well, there was one angle I watched, and I don't know. I don't know who they were rooting for. I assume Flora, but I just remember hearing him go, "Are they trying to draw him off sides?" And then
Yeah,
immediately after, the kick happened.
that was on the Flora sideline.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
That comment came from. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody in their right mind thought Flora was going to try and kick a 43-yard field goal, except Flora and their coaching staff.
And there's a lot that could go wrong when you do that.
Oh my gosh. What a call. What a situation. What a time to be a Florida Wolves fan. But I'm still picking against you this week. Sorry. Dwight got a big win over Clifton Central, 43-14. I'm not so much surprised that Dwight got the quote-unquote upset win. It's more the fact of how they went about it to get that win by the big score differential that they had.
Yeah, the score differential was the big part, because it was only a 31-28 projection for Clifton Central. So it was a true 50-50 coin flip game, essentially. So the margin is the more surprising part.
Right. And if you know anything about this Central Comets team, it's the fact that they are a passing team first. They don't have much of a run game. And when you get into the wintry conditions that we pretty much saw in the northern half of the state last week, that just does not bode well if you can't run the football. That's the whole reason why we have this shirt. Run teams win in November. There's a reason why we state that. And unfortunately for Central, they did not have that. Dwight definitely has that run game down pat in a wing T style offense. And once again, they've punched their ticket to the quarterfinals for the second consecutive year.
Yep.
Probably the biggest game that shocked the state last week was that of Brown County taking down the consensus favorite coming out of 1A South in Camp Point Central, as Brown County gets that win 16-8. And if you take a look at the stat line, Camp Point Central won the stat sheet in every part except the turnover category. 4 turnovers. That is unlike a Central Panther team.
Yeah, just very uncharacteristic of Camp Point, but that's props to Brown County. Really, since and really since week 9 of that second half, because they played that second half when they played us, they've been playing great. You know, I think most people had them picked to beat Athens outside of a few. I don't think anyone saw 48-0. I've maybe, but you know, and then obviously they get this big win, and it is definitely an upset. To me, it's not the massive upset because, like you've claimed all year, there's 3 teams that you've kind of had your eye on, and it's the 3 in the WIVC, and it just happened to run into each other. And I've said it too. They've been a top 10 team, and really they've been a top 5 team. The more I've thought about it, all year in 1A, there's 2 losses where Camp Point us, and either one of those games could have flipped the other way.
Well, that's just it. Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, this I can't hamper enough on how really good for a 7-2 team Brown County truthfully is. They're a tough 7-2.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, like you said, and props to, like you said, the defense of Brown County. My guy, Jared Hoots, baby, getting a big-time win as the defensive coordinator there, and, of course, Coach Little getting a big win. This is their first time in the quarterfinals since 2013 or 2012.
I don't know that off the top of my head. It's
Yeah, I think it was 2013, and their last semifinal appearance came in 2012 or 2011. It's something like that. But anyway, this was huge, obviously. And and to your point, I don't remember what week it was in, but one, I remember stating you have to watch for Brown County. They're going to be a team to watch. Obviously, we had Calhoun, your Calhoun Warriors, and Camp Point Central as the 2 teams. And then the sleeper was Brown County. And we said that all the way back in the preview. And then as we started going on, exactly to your point, I've made mention, and I'll continue to make that mention. I have said it week by week by week. We're heading for an NUIC WIVC state showdown once again. And arguably what have become the top 2 conferences in the state when it comes to Class 1A football over the past 7, 8, 9 years. So it's a lot of fun. It really is. And great to see Brown County get a big win there against a rivalry in Camp Point Central, of which Camp Point Central owns that rivalry. I think I saw they had like a 12-2 record against Brown County.
It was like 9-1 in their last 10 is what I remember, if I remember right.
Crazy, but tons of fun. Speaking of another upset, Rock Ridge goes down to Tri-Valley and comes away with the loss 24-17. And if you go back to the preview shows, we were talking about Tri-Valley being a team that was here in Class 2A, and now we might actually see them be where we thought that they were going to be.
If I remember right, I think I said it last week. I said if Tri-Valley can kind of channel the preseason hype that we had thought for them,
You did say
that. I thought I did. I can see a scenario where they win this, and they certainly did. I was all aboard the Rock Ridge rocket train, all aboard it. I was all for it, and Tri-Valley, to their credit, came and stopped it.
Yeah, and I'll be the first to say that I too was starting to buy into the Rock Ridge hype. my team has been Wilmington since the minute we saw that they could potentially land into 2A. They've been the team. And I know back on the playoff show, I picked Rockridge in an upset. But deep down, and I'm still sitting here contemplating it, even before Rockridge lost, I'm like, man, I should have went with my pick that I've been riding all year long. And I know it's the easy pick to make, but damn, does Wilmington look good.
Yeah, they're pretty good. They're good at what they do. It's pretty simple, too. That's what makes it beautiful.
Yeah. Well, they run my style of offense, man. I love it. I love that style of offense with that double wing and the wing tee and the misdirection and all that stuff. It's so much fun because you have to, one, you have to be a little bit smarter, I think, to play against it defensively. And two, you got to respect your opponent when you're playing against that, but at the same time, you have to trust your other teammates in order to defend it. Because if you don't trust them, then you start chasing. And when you start chasing, it opens up the backdoor holes that lead to the cutbacks and the counters and other things that just end your demise overall. And I don't know. To me, running a double tight or a wing style offense is, yes, it's easy, especially if you're outsized, but at the same time, like I said, you have to be smart in that style of offense. I mean, granted, if you run a spread style RPO offense, you got to be smart there too. But I mean, let's be honest. Is it easier to pass block or run block?
Oh, pass block.
Exactly. That's my
Step left,
point.
step right. Keep a guy in front of you. Don't let him through.
My point. There's a lot more responsibilities when you get into run blocking offense. That's why I appreciate it a lot more. Anyway, another big game in 3A, Monmouth Roseville over Bloomington Central Catholic. Bloomington Central Catholic, while it wasn't a large margin of potential victory, they were the favorite by 10 points going in that game. And Monrose comes up with the 1-point win, holding on by that. I mean, that was what, 29-15? Yeah, 29-15. And then Bloomington Central Catholic stormed back and missed an extra point that would have tied the game up for Monmouth Roseville to pull out that 1-point win. And then on the other side of the bracket, in the same classification, Tolono Unity and Monticello go back in a rematch where Tolono Unity dominated Monticello in the regular season to scathe their way with a 21-20 win on a failed 2-point try by Monticello.
Yeah, that was. I mean, first off, hats off to Monmouth Roseville. I wondered if they could crash the presumed kind of top 4 seeds making the quarterfinals in 3A North, like most people had presumed. They crashed that party. So hats off to Coach Adolphson. I love the style off, like you said. I love what they do offensively. It's fun.
I love Coach Adolphson. He's awesome. And actually, talking with Coach Brock on the playoff show, he was awesome too. I mean, both great guys, and
yeah,
man, what a great game that was.
Absolutely. Just listen to him talking like your guys' instant reacts and everything. I've really liked when I've heard from him. And then flipping to Tolona Unity Monticello, I wondered if it could be closer because Coley Walter, second time playing a team, he finds something to make it interesting, and he did. And it came down to a 2-point conversion, which they had plenty of time in the pocket. The quarterback even scrambled. He made a throw a little bit across his body, and there was a Tolono defender right there. It's a tough way to lose. That's extremely tough, but they battled and they made it interesting.
Yeah, ton of fun, great game. And we'll talk about the upcoming matchups later in the show, but let's take a look at our NUIC final scores across the state playoffs here. And while that pulls up, there it is. Stockton comes away with the win over Hayworth 26-3. They were a big favorite there. The projected score was actually 38-3, so they did hold Hayworth to just 3 points. And we'll recap that here in a little bit. Lena-Winslow getting away with the 43-14 win over GCMS. Funny thing here, Logan, is I've heard some people state that this was the state championship game. I don't know what wacky tobacco they're smoking, but I'm sorry. I hate to tell you this. I'm going to be brutally honest
The
because
same
that's
thing that
what I
Simeon
do.
kid was.
This ain't the state championship game. It's not even close. I did see one fan come to his recollection and state that in order to beat a team like Lena-Winslow, you would have to play an absolutely perfect game. And even then, they may have still came up a score short. So, I mean, that's kudos to what Lena-Winslow can do, but at the same time, how they can shut you down as well. And that same guy also had mentioned that, they held both Schlichting and Wild to 2 yards per carry less than their season averages. Well, let me tell you what they ran for average-wise.
I saw
It was
that.
6 yards per carry for Wild and 11 yards per carry for Schlichting. So you got to do just a little bit more than that, especially when Schlichting's averaging 13 yards per carry and Wild's averaging 8 yards per carry.
It would
So,
help.
yeah. And then we got to say goodbye to Dupek. Unfortunately, they come up short against Byron, 38-12, but a valiant effort by the Rivermen. And to be quite honest, I mean, while the score differential is probably 2 more points in their favor over the first time they played, the results are almost identical to the first time they played, with the exception that Byron just jumped out to a big lead early and were able to capitalize on this. But the fight by the Rivermen, no surprise here. You know, they didn't get clocked. They stayed in the game. But unfortunately, we got to wish them adieu and goodbye because they're also leaving the NUIC for the Big Northern next year. So we'll have to take a look. I've talked to Sean Considine about being able to cover the Big Northern. That way, again, another great conference there that doesn't get a whole lot of coverage like what we have. I know Brett Runyard is running the BNC page on Facebook, and he's doing a really good job of doing that. But there's just not this kind of dialogue going on for that conference, a conference that has produced a lot of state championships along with state caliber programs. And I know that Mitch and Greg are starting to delve into the Big Northern this year, and likewise, it might be time for me to start doing the same, as we got a lot of contacts on that side of the conference as well, with a couple former NUIC coaches that now coach in the Big Northern, and along with Dupek moving into the Big North. Plus, on top of that, most of these schools in the Big Northern are closer than some of the schools in the NUIC to my headquarters here. So it makes it easy to get to those games as well. But anyway, that gives you a look at the final scores from the playoffs. So Lena-Winslow and Stockton move on to the quarterfinals. Logan, let's take a look at our first game when we return right after this.
Hey there, local high school football fans. This is Sean Considine, a Byron Tiger and Iowa Hawkeye alumni, and now an LPL financial advisor. I'm passionate about high school football because it's the purest form of the game where communities come together, lifelong character is built, and the love for football runs deeper than the scoreboard. You can find me in my Byron office most days until I run off to football practice. I'm happy to talk about football or the markets. I'll leave that up to you. I want to wish everyone across Illinois a safe, successful, and memorable high school football season. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC.
Are you looking to raise funds for your program? Look no further than Leading Edge Fundraising, helping teams and programs raise more with less hassle. Whether you're gearing up for a new season or trying to hit a financial goal, Leading Edge has the tools, products, and experience to get you there. From youth clubs to varsity programs, they've helped teams across Illinois maximize profits and minimize stress. Want fundraising that actually works? Go with the local experts who know how to win off the field too. Contact Brandon at 563-514-1647. Leading Edge Fundraising, raising the standard. Reach out today and take your program to the next level. Need a logo, website, or standout graphic design? Check out Nick at Volkert Design, your go-to for high-impact branding and design solutions. With over 20 years of experience serving businesses across Northern Illinois and Chicagoland, Nick delivers best-in-class websites, logos, and graphics that get noticed. Whether you're a startup or an established name, Volkert Design brings your vision to life. Visit Volkert.design today to see the difference top-tier design makes. Logan, that first game's going to take us to a place that a lot of people up here really love to go to. And the funny thing is the field is literally, it's just in a city park across the street from the high school. But it has been the home to a lot of memories throughout the years. And we're talking about John O'Boyle Field in Stockton, where the number one ranked and number one seeded Blackhawks are 11-0. They are going to play host to the 12 seeded Dwight Trojans, who come in at 8-3. Last week, Dwight beat Clifton Central 43-14. Stockton beat Hayworth 26-3. One of the things that was brought up, Logan, was the fact that maybe Stockton isn't quite to the level that they were at the beginning of the year. We've started to hear a little bit of the whispers of, maybe they peaked early, things like that. I don't think that's really the case. When you go back and actually watch this game, Stockton pretty much did what they wanted to do in this game. The problem is that one, Hayworth, their first possession of the game took like 10 minutes off the clock in the first quarter.
Been there
before they settled for a field goal. And Stockton had two offensive snaps in the first quarter. And they only had a total of 2 possessions in the entire first half. One of those possessions did result in a touchdown. Then in the third quarter, Stockton was able to get another touchdown on their first possession of the quarter. And then they had 2 more scores there in the fourth quarter, where they basically scored on their next 3 possessions after halftime. Hayworth, you got to tip their hat. They had a game plan. And they came in, and the game plan was exactly what we've talked about. In order to give yourself an opportunity when you're a big underdog, you have to find a way to slow down the game and then hope for opportunities. And Hayworth did that. They slowed the game way down. They literally were not snapping the ball until they had anywhere from 2 to 4 seconds left on the game or on the play clock. Every single snap. Problem is they only rushed for like 51 yards in the game. They weren't able to really effectively move the ball outside of that first drive of the game either, which speaks volumes to where Stockton's defense is at. I mean, hell, they've only given up 3 points in the playoffs. They're only giving up like 9 points or 7 points per game on the year. And then it's probably even lower than that if you take out all the garbage time minute points that they've given up. So I guess what I'm getting at is I don't think Stockton is really sputtering like people think. We knew that the first round game with Galena was going to be a challenge. 1, it's a rivalry game. 2, they know exactly what each team's going to do. They're very familiar with each other. But then on top of that, you still have to be able to play and execute. And Stockton still came away in that game with a 26-0 win. So you win by 4 touchdowns in round 1. You win by 3 or 4 scores, depending on how extra points would have went had they scored in round 2. And people are talking about them sputtering. It's like, didn't know 3 to 4 touchdown victories were sputtering, but
It's a high standard.
it is. And you know, we talked about it on the instant reacts too, as well, that there is that perception because of the low scores. But defensively, like I said, they've only given up 3 points. Now, Dwight does provide some troubling issues for what Stockton can do. You know, they run a wing T style offense, so that's not unfamiliar to what Stockton does. But once again, Dwight's going to be outsizing Stockton by quite a bit. They're going to be the bigger team. What Stockton needs to do is exactly what they've done all year. They have to play whistle to whistle. They have to be fast off the ball. They have to win that speed off the snap. They have to win that in order to be able to win the line of scrimmage. And then they just have to keep doing what they're doing and not outthink the situation. The biggest thing is they cannot be committing penalties. They have to play within themselves, smart, relaxed, composed, and just be able to let it free flow like they did when they beat Lena-Winslow. If they can do that, I think they're going to run away pretty big in this one.
Yeah, I agree with that. What's the projection? 42-10. Yeah, the projection's 42-10. That feels kind of like right on. Dwight, to their credit, they've had another good year. Back in the quarterfinals for the second time in school history. Last year at 2A, this year at 1A. So I don't know. I think Stockton's gonna be sitting pretty for next week.
Yeah, so last week, Jack Bensendike, 16 attempts, 81 yards and a touchdown. Carter Blair, only 6 attempts for 13 yards. So Hayward did a good job of bottling him up. He did have a 90-yard kickoff return touchdown. Detweiler only had 9 attempts for 18 yards, but he too was able to get a second half touchdown in there. Harrison Bauer, 5 attempts for 30 yards. And then Noah Larson was 4 for 7 passing for 47 yards and another touchdown. All 4 of those receptions went to Morgan Hass. So efficiently, passing-wise, they were efficient. It didn't net big yards, but they were efficient, and they were able to get a touchdown there. Rushing-wise, I mean, they definitely had a hard time coming by yards on the ground rushing-wise, and that in itself can definitely be a little problematic with what they want to do. But from what I've seen and what I've heard, it didn't sound like Stockton was never not in control of the game. And that is another thing that you got to take into effect. I've seen great teams not win by large margins, but they've controlled the game the entire time. But they were just playing to the pace of the game. And before you know it, like you've stated, all of a sudden you're in the fourth quarter and there's 3 minutes left and it's a 2-touchdown game or something like that. And maybe you didn't win to the level that people said you were going to win or projections thought you were going to win, but you still came away with a win. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. Survive and advance. It's tournament time, baby.
Survive and advance.
So you kind of hinted on it. Stockton enters as a 32-point favorite. One projection has Stockton favored 42-10. Another projection has Stockton favored 42-7. So we'll see what actually transpires here. But I definitely feel Stockton is the superior team, especially after getting to see Dwight firsthand last year. I just feel that this Stockton team can do more things. Plus, you take a look at the body of work that Dwight's had. Their first round games, they really haven't played anybody that stands out. I mean, they beat Rushville Industry, and we
Toss-up
always
game.
it was a toss-up game, and it was kind of won in a toss-up, right? And Rushville Industry wasn't even the best team in the LLC. They may have been the third or fourth best team in the LLC, and Dwight played with them there. Dwight also got crushed by a Marquette team that lost to GCMS that literally just got demolished by Lena-Winslow, a team that you have already beat by 3 touchdowns earlier this year.
Think it bodes well for them. Think it bodes well for Stockton.
I think if Stockton plays Stockton football, they're going to be just fine.
I agree.
All right. We'll be right back when we return right after this. Life comes with a lot of big decisions, from protecting your home and family to planning for the future. That's where Tyler Hoffman with Country Financial comes in. As a local agent, Tyler knows our community and is committed to helping you build a plan that's right for you. Give Tyler Hoffman a call today at 815-248-2188 or stop by his office in Durand. Tyler Hoffman with Country Financial, protecting what matters most. Are you looking to buy or sell a home in the NUIC area? Trust local expertise. Jess Schumacher with Remax Town, Lake, and Country knows the market and understands the community. Whether you're upgrading, downsizing, or buying your first home, Jess is here to make the process simple and stress-free. Put his experience to work for you today. Call Jess Schumacher with Remax Town, Lake, and Country at 608-347-3659. Your hometown realtor, helping you find home where your story begins. Logan, our Jess Schumacher Remax Town, Lake, and Country Game of the Week. It's hard to believe that we still got Game of the Weeks, but we do. But we're getting down to the limited few. Number 3 seed and number 2 ranked Lena-Winslow at 10-1 goes on the road to the 2 seed Anawan Weathersfield Titans, who are 11-0. Last week, Lena-Winslow beat GCMS 43-14. Anawan Weathersfield had to come back to beat DMAC 33-26 in order to secure their victory and move into the quarterfinal round. I initially had DMAC projected to win that game. Obviously, Coach Myers and his crew came up just short, but Coach Grip and his team definitely sealed the win there. I was taking a look at a couple things, and I was talking to Mitch yesterday about some stuff when it comes down to the Lena-Winslow Anawan Weathersfield matchup. These two teams have played twice since 2019. 2019 in the semifinals, Lena-Winslow won that matchup 44-30. But realistically, that game was far greater in separation than what the final score ended up being. And then 2 years ago, they played in the quarterfinals. Lena-Winslow won that one 30-0. I just don't see where Anawan Weathersfield's going to have the ability to keep up with Lena-Winslow in this game.
Yeah, I agree. And looking at kind of breaking it down like you did last time, you said it. They had to come back from behind to beat DMAC, and DMAC was they were a good team. Like, they were a solid team this year. They may not have been a state title contender, but they were a solid team that wasn't just gonna lay down. But that same DMAC team lost to Gibson City 14-20. Well, we saw what Lewin did to Gibson City last week. And like you previously stated, they only lost to Anawan Weathersfield 33-26. So just kind of breaking it down through common opponents or common opponent scores that played someone, it's a pretty uphill battle for Anawan Weathersfield. Now, obviously, that's why you play the games. Anything can happen on any given Friday or Saturday. But, the previous history, the common opponents, it just lines up for a Lena-Winslow win is what it feels like.
Yeah, I agree. You can never overlook an opponent. It's something we talk about all the time. I mean, we're just kind of analysts and pundits here, and we get to talk about football. So we can do those things. We can look ahead. We can project. We can see what we see based off of the different games that me and you have seen throughout the course of the season. And through that, you get a good eye test of what teams can do, what teams can't do. And you also get to see what teams stand above the rest, right? And obviously, this is more of a David versus Goliath type of contest here. But we've also seen David beat Goliath several times. We just saw it last week with the Brown County Camp Point Central game. So anything can always happen. You have to respect your opponents. There's no doubt about that. But let's take a look at what Lena-Winslow's done here. I don't have any of the stats from Anawan Weathersfield, but I know that they have a good running back in Ori who's done great things for Anawan Weathersfield the last 2 seasons. But Alex Schlichting last week, 17 attempts, 195 yards, a touchdown, a reception for 13 yards and another touchdown, 4 tackles on defense. Aiden Wild, 27 attempts, 140 yards, 3 touchdowns. Right now, with the way those two are running the ball, if you try to gear up to stop one, the other's going to hurt you. And that's part of the problem, is because they can get these guys the ball in different formations, or at least starting in the same base formation, but in different play groups. They can get these guys the ball in different ways. And that becomes very hard to stop, even when you know it's coming, because you still have to find a way to penetrate that offensive line. And me and you have talked ad nauseum on this throughout the course of the year. Last year's Lena-Winslow was a lot faster overall than the 2023 team that lost at the state championship game. And most of last year's team is back on this year's team, with the exception of a few. So this is a very fast and physical Lena-Winslow team. And yeah, you go back to week 2, and anybody can go back and watch that game film and see what Stockton did to beat Lena-Winslow all day long. But guess what? That's one of the tricks to the trades that Coach Aaron does. He's not going to show his cards in week 2 against a team he fully anticipates on seeing when it comes down to the playoffs. He's never done that. It's never going to happen. Dude's been doing this for 29 years, man. He's no dummy. He's had to go up against teams multiple times a second time around. This ain't the first. I mean, he's had to do it against the Dakotas, the Forestons, the EPCs. This ain't the first time. This ain't his first rodeo. And he knew, and he even talked about it back in the preseason. He picked Stockton to win the conference. He was the only coach that did. Every other coach picked Lena-Winslow to win conference. He was the only coach that picked Stockton to win conference. Now, granted, let's be honest, he's never going to pick himself to win conference anyway. He never has. He's very humble when it comes to that, and he respects his opponents, which in turn makes his kids also do the same. But one thing you're starting to see is what we've seen out of Lena-Winslow in years past. They're going to continue to run the ball. And something that they did not do in the state championship game in 23 when they lost to Camp Point Central was throw the ball. Now, they have a quarterback that can throw the ball, that they trust, that can make some plays. That in itself, while they might not do it often enough, if you do it at the right times in the right parts of the game, it becomes a big game changer. And we've seen it. Their game against Rochelle, they threw a 63-yard pass play to Miles Mann. Last week, they threw a touchdown pass to Alex Schlichting. They're going to find a time within the game to make something happen or in the air that is going to throw everybody off. And that's only going to happen if they get into a situation where They know brute force isn't going to get it done here. They're going to fake brute force and come at you with something over the top. They do it. I mean, I've been watching this go on for the last 10 years. And there's definitely some tricks up the sleeve, as all great coaches have. And when it comes down to it, right now, there's not a team in Class 1A that is playing better football than Lena-Winslow. I don't care what anybody says.
They're peaking at the right time.
Yeah, for sure. Anyway, Lena-Winslow did kick a 32-yard field goal last week, too. So you have to keep that in mind. They have the opportunity to kick a field goal. Miles Mann hit a 32-yard field goal last week, on top of leading the defense and with 6 tackles. And Cash Lessman was 3 for 3 passing last week with that touchdown pass to Schlichting. I don't know. Lena-Winslow enters this game as a 26-point favorite. What's your thoughts?
I'm a little surprised it isn't more. A little surprised it's not more.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Their margin of victory projection is higher than what they're favored.
Yeah. You said they're projected to win 42-10, which again, like Stockton, feels right. And the other projections 42-7, which again feels like right on track.
Which is ironic because
it's the same.
It's almost carbon copy of what Stockton and Dwight were.
I think, again, not trying to look ahead to the north side for next week to what is potentially looming, but it seems kind of like what we said all year, that if they get away from each other on the opposite halves of the bracket, you're setting up a collision course for Stockton and Lena-Winslow in the semifinals. It's what it's felt like since it came out.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the probability to see that Lena-Winslow Stockton semifinal that everybody's been talking about and hoping for before the playoff brackets came out is looming large. And the funny thing is, Logan, outside of Camp Point Central losing last week, and us talking about it with having Calhoun, Camp Point Central, and Brown County as the 3 teams that could make it to state on the south side of the bracket, this bracket almost feels exactly like it did in 2017 when it was Lena-Winslow Forreston, Tuscola Athens. And you knew that those were going to be the 4 teams left standing, and we just had to get through the first 3 weeks of whatever it was that we had to get through to get to the actual games that mattered. And boy, did those games bring out the best in all 4 of those teams. And then we had a great state championship on top of it.
Yeah.
I think that's what this bracket feels like to me. It has since it's broken loose.
Definitely
the only difference is I had Camp Point Central and Calhoun in the semifinals instead of Brown County and Calhoun.
Got to play the games.
Yes, you do. But definitely picking Lena-Winslow here to continue to roll on.
Go Panthers.
All right. Let's move down to that 1A South bracket since we have you here and we have your team's here, and so are the other 2 counterparts in your side of the bracket with both teams that you've already seen this year in person, as your Warriors have beat both teams. So take it away, Logan, on Calhoun versus KZ Westfield in this projection here.
So break it down. KC will be hosting us at 11-0. They'll be 9-2. The projections: Calhoun 31-17. Last week Calhoun won 22-14 in an instant classic is what it was. An instant classic over Greenfield. Tip my hat to them. It was awesome game, well coached, great game plan out of them, and just came down to a couple plays. KC won 48-14 over Nokomis last week. from my understanding and researching, at least in the playoffs, and I don't know about anything prior till however how long, this, I believe, is the first meeting all time between both teams ever. So that's just something to keep in mind. I'll start with us first. Earl Elmore was 19 and 25 passing last week. Most of those were just screens. For 200 yards, 2 TDs with 2 picks. Jake Brandon had 26 carries for 124 yards. Jack Good, my guy, I showed you another clip of him this last week. 10 of 38 rushing, 1 touchdown, 4 receptions for 47 yards, 2 TDs and 2 touchdown receptions and a huge INT. With what we were doing last week, we had him out of position a little bit, and he made a huge interception on a screen that really changed momentum after we threw a picks. It was 2 plays back to back, interception, so got that momentum right back. And then Rodney Johnson was huge for us with 10 receptions for 108 yards. Again, most of those were just dink and dunks, just taking what we can get. Looking at Casey, I got this over here so I can kind of cheat off of it. They're a good team. I can. Their tailback really sticks out. Number 2, Luke Karras, all-stater. He was an all-stater last year. Fullback. He runs hard. He blocks well. He tackles well. He breaks tackles. He's one of the best football players we've seen all year. And he was one of the best players I saw last year. I remember I had my eye on him because I thought there was a chance that, depending on how the bracket broke out, we could play them. Nolan Clement, quarterback, back again. Again, good quarterback. Makes great throws, especially if he gets time in the pocket. He has great speed, can make things happen with his wheels. Up front, they're very good. They're physical. They're fast off the line. They they run a couple different formations, but they're good at what they do. Number 34, Nick Futi, I believe is how I pronounce that. Again, good tailback, also goes out and receiver, good speed, catch the ball, can do great things with his hand. Kellen Sullivan, number 4, also tailback. Same thing. He runs hard. He's quick off the ball. He's good with the ball in his hands. And then Julius Jack, he's got great speed at receiver at 5'11", 170. Casey's got a great history. I expect, first off, excited to travel there. Love getting to travel. It's our first time on the road since that first round game against Hayworth back in 2022. So I'm excited to finally go on the road again. I expect a good game. I know what the projection says, and as I've said all year, throw it out. I expect a good game. They're well coached. They were good last year. They're a quarterfinal team last year. They beat 2 WIBC teams onto that quarterfinal last year. They played Greenfield the year before. They've got some familiarity with our conference, so I expect a good, hard-nosed football game.
Yeah, I had somebody from KZ reach out to me, and they were like, "Why do you keep overlooking us?" And it's like, not overlooking you. I've been high on the WIVC all year. There's no doubt about that. I've said it since week 1, and I'm saying it in week 12. I've been high on the WIVC. Me and you have discussed a lot about KZ Westfield with all the returning players that they had. And then, like you said, when you go back to see their playoff run, they got knocked out in the quarters by the Metro East All-Stars, which ran through everybody. So it wasn't really a big surprise there. But there's just a couple things where I just felt like they weren't to the level. First and foremost, everybody wants to refer to the conference, and the Little Illini Conference, what I call it's the LIC, I call it the Lick. But yes, it's a conference made up of mostly 2A and 3A schools, and there are a 1A school in there that used to be a 2A school. But they're the premier team in that conference. I mean, Mount Carmel just recently moved in, and a couple of years ago, they were very dominant with the Blaine Sissons kid, and they went to state before they got absolutely demolished by Byron, which made that state championship look like a farce. Everybody knew that the state championship was the Byron Montini game that year anyway, but regardless of that fact, they just don't have a lot of playoff success. I mean, most of the teams in the conference don't have playoff success. KZ Westfield and Mount Carmel are the only two teams with legitimate playoff success. And then, that they had to squeak away a win against Tuscola, and then they lost a very close one to Richland County, which I get it. Richland County was a good team this year, but even, there's another town had some of their fans reach out to me. How's Richland County not in your top 10 of 4A? Because you play in a 2A conference, dude. Like, you're not at the same level, and then they go and lose in round one anyway. Which further validated my point. But I don't know. I think KZ's going to be tough. I like you. This projection, it's close. It favors Calhoun by like 14 points, but I can definitely see this game being a lot closer than that. Especially if KZ Westfield starts fast and they find a way to make some turnovers. I do think they come in as the underdog here. I think Calhoun is the favorite. I think Calhoun's the favorite to get to state right now, to be honest. Especially after Camp Point Central lost. But can they keep this going? Granted, you guys have a great coaching staff. You guys have a coaching staff that has been to state championships as players. Can they keep the calm and the poise among the players on the team to get themselves to another state championship?
That's why you got to play the games.
I think that they can. But as you know, these next 2 weeks are not going to be easy at all.
They're not going to be easy at all. My sleep after was gone after round one, and that's okay.
That's what makes this part of the season fun. I mean,
it does make it fun.
I had those same sleepless nights in baseball. I don't get them in football because I don't. I'm not there. I get to sit back and do this.
Moving on, I'll look at we'll move to Carrollton, Brown County. Carrollton enters as the 11 seed at 8-3. Brown County the 7 seed at 9-2. Brown County is projected to win 28-13. Last week, Carrollton just ended Dupo State Championship run 34-19. Brown County beat Camp Point 16-8. These teams met back in week one, where BC won that game 28-7 at Brown County, and they have also met in the playoffs one time before that, in 2005, when BC won in the first round 33-7. Last week, looking at Brown County, Trey Fullerton ran the ball 21 times for 55 yards. Eli Staten 11 times for 31 yards. Bo Little 3 for 5, 1 reception for 19 yards. Jack Sefton 5 for 54, and then Vince Little 5 for 16 and 1 of 1 passing to 19 yards. Obviously, like we talked about earlier, that Brown County defense forced CPC to have 4 turnovers, which is uncharacteristic of a Camp Point team. So hats off to what they did. I'll quickly move through Carrollton. Carson Flowers was 24-37 passing for 349 yards, 11 of 64 rushings with 9 tackles on defense. I know he had 1 rushing touchdown and a handful of receiving touchdowns, which we'll get to now. Brady Clendon, brought up last week, 7 receptions for 143 yards, 1 touchdown, and 4 of 16 running. Reach Netgoki, 5 for 94, 1 touchdown receiving, and then 7 tackles. Charlie Stump, 7 for 49 receiving, 1 touchdown, 9 for 23 on the ground, 1 touchdown. Eli Rhodes had 4 for 49 in the air, 6 tackles, and then Buddy Holmes was 3 for 31 receiving. I truly expect I expect a hard-hitting game. Obviously, they met back in week 1, and both teams are more honed into who they are now at this point. It's hard to beat a team. I'll say this: it's hard. One, it's hard to beat a team twice. I can speak to that last week. Playing Greenfield twice had me pull my hair out. On the same time, it's also hard to play a team twice at their place and come away victorious in one of those. It's just hard to do that. I like Brown County in this game. but I expect a good football game either way.
So the projections are almost congruent with what Brown County's favored in this game. Obviously, like you said, Brown County won this game 28-7, so a 21-point score differential. They enter this game as a 15-point favorite, and the projection also has them as a 15-point winner. So, yeah, I'm intrigued by this game. There was a Carrollton mom who had reached out on Facebook. I'm not going to mention names, but if she's listening, she'll know who she is. But she thanked me for believing in Carrollton. Of course, this is the same mom who probably in a couple years ago probably was not thanking me for anything, as I talked about how Lena-Winslow was going to beat Carrollton when they were leading up to state. But there was just something I saw in this Carrollton team that led me to believe that they could be a potential quarterfinal team. And we talked about it on the playoff show, and we talked about it in our previews to the playoffs as well. They had a great draw. Like you said, it's going to be very tough to go back to Brown County, of all places, to try to get a win here. I like the matchup. It's Brown County's time. I mean, the biggest thing though that can actually help Carrollton here is, and we've seen this happen before, when you get through a team that you feel is the team to beat, you can run into that trap of a letdown because you've already exhausted all of that energy to get past the team to where now subconsciously you think the next game's going to be easier. This game is not going to be easier in any stretch of the imagination. But I will preface this as well, and I know it's a playoff game. Your team beat this exact same Carrollton team 41-0. Granted, it was later in the season than what Brown County played them back in week 1. I feel that I need to see Brown County do a similar type of game against Carrollton in order for me to pick them to be a team at the state championship game in a couple weeks when we get there. Just my thoughts.
I think that's totally I think that's a totally fair thought. I know how good of a job that Coach Flower does and Coach Little, both of them great staffs, tremendous. And I don't
think this is going to be a runaway game. I don't think it's going to be a runaway game. I think this is going to be a great game.
There's just, I'll say it for like the NUIC, the WIBC, any conference really. There's nothing that I think coaches this time of year probably hate more than having to play a team twice, especially a team like, even though they're Carrollton South and Brown County's in the North Division, having to play people you're familiar with, because that familiarity makes it even harder to prep for, because how are they going to adjust to what we did week 6? I'll use Greenfield. How are they going to adjust? So what do we do to adjust? It's the chess match, and that's what makes it fun.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 1,000%. I agree with you on that. But at the same time, you're now in the point of the season where, okay, your side of the bracket, you got 3 of your 4 teams are conference members left remaining, which is one for the conference. For the WIBC is freaking awesome.
Fun.
You're guaranteed one team to make it to the semifinals, hoping for 2 teams to be there. No different than what my conference is doing. I mean, we got 2 of 4 there. And yeah, our 2 are more heavily favored going into this week, but there's still that element of surprise before you actually have to book those games. You got to show up and you got to play the game, and you got to own that game. Because if you don't own it, you might as well pack up your bags and go home now.
Yep.
But yeah, I think it's going to be fun. Let's take a look at the 1A bracket here. We'll pull that up here. So there's that bracket right there. So as you can see, as you were stating, so Calhoun is the favored team over KZ Westfield. My projections there have it Calhoun by 14. Brown County is favored over Carrollton. My projections have it Brown County by 16. I know the other one said 15. It's only a point differential. Big deal. Obviously, on the other side of the bracket, Stockton and Lena-Winslow are both favored to win by 32 points. And, yeah, wouldn't that be awesome? Stockton, Lena-Winslow semifinal, Brown County, Calhoun semifinal. That'd be fun. That'd be awesome. Even if Carrollton does get the upset of Brown County, that would still be awesome because then you got another rivalry game in there too.
I will also add this. I was just looking at kind of playoff history because I was just curious. If my recollection and looking over everything is correct, Calhoun and Carrollton have only met in the playoffs one time.
Wow.
One time. And we've played Greenfield 9 other times. Now. So that would add
between
to that.
Lena-Winslow and Stockton. If this matchup between Lena-Winslow and Stockton happens, it will be the first time they've ever met in the semifinals.
That's nuts.
A lot of firsts.
Yep.
All right.
That's why you play the games.
It is. Let's take a look at the 2A bracket as we wind this show down here for the first segment. And we'll take a look at Class 2A here. So Wilmington and Tri-Valley square up with each other. Obviously, Tri-Valley getting the upset win over Rock Ridge. Wilmington also going on the road to Seneca to get that win. So Tri-Valley has to come up to Wilmington, one of the more interesting places to play a game because they have a football field at the high school, but that's not where they play their football games. They play the football games at the middle school, which is right behind the high school. But the entrance, as you've heard many people talk about, is just insane. They bring out a crap ton of motorcycles. The players walk through the trees to come onto the field. They light off fireworks. It's one of the more grand entrances in all of small school football, if not one of the most exciting. It's also why it's one of my bucket list places I need to get to for a football game. It just won't be this week. But Wilmington, heavy favorites over Tri-Valley here. They're projected to win by 4 touchdowns. On the other side of that north bracket, you have El Paso Gridley and Farmington squaring up. I know that a lot of people in that part of the bracket to this point has played out as straight chalk. So this game's going to be in El Paso on the turf. And, for Farmington, they played Aurora Christian last week. They've basically had the ability to be at home the first 2 rounds. Now they have to go on the road. El Paso Gridley is projected to win by 9 points. I know Mitch has already stated that he's got Farmington. There's no way that EPG wins this game. Although he does think it will be close. But he's got Farmington. I don't know who to really pick in this game, but I like where EPG is at. I like what Farmington does as well. I think this is probably one of the more intriguing matchups. But I'm going to stick with my pick. I am, once again, going against Farmington. I'm taking EPG.
Give me the Farmers. I'm on the train. I've bought in. I'm on the train.
Again, if the Farmers win, I'm excited. I'm stoked, man. I'm
on the train.
But I'm picking EPG.
I'm on the Farmers train.
The other side of the bracket, Maroa Forsyth and Flora get a play. Flora's been at home twice already, so they have to go on the road to the Boyd in Maroa to play Maroa Forsyth. The Trojans, man, doing what they do
I
every
thought they
year.
were
it
dead.
seems. Yeah, they're not dead.
No,
Everybody
very
thought they
much
were dead.
not.
I mean, another team where, they were right up there at the top, right? Because they were in the state championship a season ago. Likewise, they return a lot of players from that team. And on top of that, they were arguably one of the top two teams returning this year that we felt would be state contenders, right? They're favored to win by 15 points over Flora. Westville and Arthur Lovington. Westville's been my pick to be the 2A South representative at state since the playoff brackets came out. They're projected to win by 20 points over Arthur Lovington. If that game's even remotely close, I can guarantee you next week I am flipping script and I will be picking Merle Forsyth. I have all the respect for Coach Jefferson and Arthur Lovington. They're just not at the same level as this Westville team this year, in my opinion, based off what I've seen so far. But we'll
Especially
find out.
holding DeCoin to 13 points. That was what I was more impressed about.
We'll definitely find out. Yeah, I figured the winner of Westville DeCoin was going to be the odds-on favorite to get to state. Obviously, Westville did that big time, right? But Westville does run a wing T style offense, which I felt if any year was the year for Johnson City finally to get that monkey off their back called Merle Forsyth, it would be this one, and they just got their asses handed to them. So, again, I mean, no game between Moreau Forsyth and Johnson City has been close ever.
I will make this claim. Flora, I'm picking Maroa this week, but if you beat Maroa Forsyth, I will, like he said, I will flip the script. I will go. I will pick you in the semifinal game against whoever, whether it's Alla or Westville. I will pick you to win that game.
There are a lot of things that Florida does well. They can do many different things within their game plan, but Merle Forsyth is just very dangerous, and they got the experience on their side. And Merle Forsyth has never lost to a BDC team.
And the team they beat Flora. So
yeah. All right, so that gives you a look at Class 2A. So let's take a look at Class 3A. And Richmond, Burton, and Monmouth, Roseville. Obviously, Monmouth, Roseville was not the pick to be here. It was Bloomington Central Catholic, but the Titans are here, and they are taking on Richmond, Burton. Richmond, Burton favored to win by 5 points. That is going to be a very, very good game. The bottom part of that North bracket, Byron and IC Catholic, the quarterfinal matchup everybody's been talking about, and arguably the proverbial state championship game to some. IC Catholic is favored to win that one by 6 points. That one, I will state, while the bracket says IC Catholic, and I will claim it as being a win or loss for me, depending on what IC Catholic does. My actual pick to win this game is Byron. I think Byron has what it takes to beat IC Catholic. I'm putting that out there so it's on record. Yes, my pick says IC Catholic. That's not how I actually feel. I've been doing this project the entire season, running basically off of projections just to see and give an example of how
the accuracy
accurate it is. But I will own the win or the loss that IC Catholic does. I am picking Byron to win this game.
Yeah, I'm picking Byron.
Tolono Unity and Williamsville is one of the more intriguing matchups there. Obviously, Williamsville, I've got to talk to one of their assistant coaches throughout the course of the year. And of course, I've talked to him each of the past 2 years about how the Sangamo's kind of dropping off. And here you got another tough argument because, once again, you got Moreau, Forsyth, and Williamsville, the two patron winners of the Sangamo Conference sitting here banging their chests in the quarterfinals again, rightfully so. And it's no disrespect to the Sangamo Conference. I have great respect for the Sangamo Conference because they prove it year in and year out. But I have said it since the beginning of the playoffs that if BCC were to move into the North bracket, Tolono Unity was my team to win the South side of the bracket and get to normal. They're still my pick. Tolono Unity is projected to win by 11 points. The more interesting part, Logan, and it goes back to what we've talked about several times throughout the course of the past 12 weeks, is the competition of that Illini Prairie Conference. And here you have Vandalia going up against St. Joseph Ogden. St. Joseph Ogden is projected to win by 7 points. I've already had a Vandalia person reach out to me and state that the Vandals are going all the way. They are going to shock the state. Well, let's see if it can happen.
I have a buddy, and I won't name his name, but he's from the SCC, the South Central Conference area, the conference Vandalia's in. And he asked me if I could run a projection of St. Joe and Vandalia on Monday in class, because we have classes together at SIUE. I said, St. Joe's projected to win 35-28. And he looked at me and goes, only by 7?
Yeah.
So I think this has come from a guy who's went to a South Central Conference game every single week this year, from week 1 to, what are we in, week 12 now? So through week 11, he's going to week 12. I don't know where he's going. Actually, I do know where he's going because Vandalia is still playing. So,
yeah, I'm excited about this game, but I do like St. Joe Ogden, and getting a semifinal rematch between Illini Prairie rivals there in Tolono Unity and St. Joe Ogden, that would be just remarkable.
Back-to-back years in mind, not for Tolono and St. Joe's, but for a Illini Prairie rematch in the semifinals, because Tolono and Monticello did it last year.
Yeah.
And it was a classic.
It was. And Tolono Unity was at state, just 3 years ago?
Yeah, it wasn't very long ago.
Yeah, because they lost to IC Catholic. So, yep.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
It is. So that gives you a look at the Class 1A, 2A, and 3A brackets. Logan, do you have anything to say for the fans?
I'm excited to still be playing, coaching. Excited for it. It's an awesome time of year. I'm excited to travel to KC. That's my favorite part, is getting to travel. We didn't do it last year because we had 3 straight home games. So last time we traveled was when we went up to Hayworth in 2022 or in 2023. And I drove up, me and my mom, we drove up the night before, stayed in Bloomington, somewhere nice. So I'm excited to go travel. I'm excited to play someone not from our conference, because that's what makes the playoffs fun, is playing new teams. That's what makes it fun. Obviously rooting for the 2 NUIC teams. I'll be rooting for whoever comes out of Brown County and Carrollton. Just glad that the WIBC gets a semifinalist no matter what. And I know I'm going to be pulling for me and my boys, but we got to earn it first. Yeah,
well, speaking of your boys and the Calhoun Warriors, I wish you guys the best of luck this week. And I hope that, for our friendship and all of what entails there, that when we're making the trip to Normal this year, you're not sitting in the press box with me, but you're down on the field actually coaching it.
It's what I want. We got to earn it first. Have to earn it.
You do. So with that, I wish you the best of luck. Obviously, these are going to be some great quarterfinal games here. If you're looking at the 1A bracket, I've already heard a lot of people sit here and state, is Stockton keeping their game at 6:00? The Stockton girls did book their trip to the state championship, or to the state finals for volleyball. So the Stockton Dwight game is going to be at 6 p.m., which means with Lena-Winslow and Anawan Weathersfield playing at 1:00, there's going to be a large contingent of people, I feel, that are going to be going to Kewanee to watch the Lena-Winslow and Weathersfield game, and then drive right up 78 to watch the Stockton Dwight game. Should be a lot of fun for a lot of people that are trying to get the double dip, especially with the game pairings at 1 o'clock and 6 o'clock. Makes it very easy to do that drive and that travel, about an hour differential between the two towns. So should be a lot of fun in that realm. Obviously, the big games here, Calhoun, KZ, Westfield, you got to go all the way to the other side of the state. So that'll be a fun trip for you. So have safe travels with that. But then the Brown County Carrollton rematch or game there as well should be a lot of fun. It is a rematch, but it should be a lot of fun getting a couple WIVC matchups there. Obviously, the Cinderella story and the Florida Wolves. Yes, I said the Cinderella story. But does the glass slipper stay on or fall off this week against the perennial Maroa Forsyth Trojans? That will be a big one there. Westville should be able to book their way to a semifinal game for the first time since, 2019 or something like that. I think they were last in the semifinals. And then, El Paso, Gridley, Farmington will be a lot of fun. And, of course, Wilmington, Tri-Valley has the intrigue, but Wilmington a huge favorite there. 3A side, Byron IC Catholic, huge matchup in Byron. So Byron gets it on the grass, which is what they wanted. Richmond, Burton, Monmouth, Roseville's going to look like a fun game up there in Richmond. And then, like you said, the opportunity to see some Illini Prairie teams fight for their way to have a rematch in that semifinal. A huge rivalry between those two schools, if that were to happen. No different than Lena-Winslow and Stockton. Should be a lot of fun. But for the 11-man side, we'll see you guys next week. Coming up next, we're going to have Jay Doyle and Joe Merdian join us to talk about IFA football, the semifinals, and the look ahead to this road to Monmouth. We'll see you next week. When it comes to concrete floors, don't settle for ordinary. Upgrade to extraordinary with Diedrich Epoxy. Whether it's your garage, basement, shop, or business, Diedrich Epoxy delivers durability, style, and a flawless finish built to last. Locally owned and trusted, they'll transform your space with professional epoxy flooring that stands up to whatever life throws at it. Take the first step today. Call Diedrich Epoxy at 815-239-1158 and bring strength and style to your floors. Need a fresh look? Look no further than Neff Paints, where quality meets craftsmanship. From gyms and locker rooms to living rooms and home projects, Neff Paints has you covered with top-tier products and expert service. Trusted by local pros and proud supporters of our area athletes, Neff Paints brings the durability, color, and finish that lasts. Ready to get started? Call Skylar at 815-541-7338 and take the first step toward your next transformation. Neff Paints, locally owned, community-driven, quality you can see. Welcome back to the show as we get ready to talk 8-man football. Joe Merdian and Jay Doyle finally back on
We're
set.
back, baby. We're back.
Eddie Lopez called you out and said we need to get Jay back on the show, and here you are.
Yeah, you got to listen to Eddie. You got to listen to Eddie. I'm back, baby.
Oh, man. Guys, we're heading into the semifinals. Obviously, it's an NUIC affair once again with 3 of the 4 remaining teams in the semifinals hailing from the NUIC. And then we have South Fork, who has really come into their own so far this season. Much respect to what Coach Hanlon and his crew have done to be at this point. Joe, taking a look back at some of the quarterfinal matchups, what were some of the games that stuck out to you the most?
Yeah, Kyle, let's start with a South Fork 38-14 win over West Carroll. That was a good game throughout. Kind of got away from the Thunder there, end of the third and end of the fourth. South Fork was up, I believe, 14-8 at the half. So, real close game. And actually, West Carroll scored first in this game, guys, and recovered the onside kick. So they had all momentum early in this one. But South Fork was able to still take the lead, 14-8 at the half. It was 22-14 game, waning seconds of the third. South Fork put up a score on the board there to make it 30-14 going in the fourth. And West Carroll just couldn't get any closer. But all in all, good effort from the Thunder. South Fork, they're the real deal. George Bailey, another 200 yards, 4 TDs. And guys, Brody Lush, 3 interceptions. Kyle, I know we don't really keep track of defensive stuff too much, but that's got to be an I8FA playoff record, right?
It's got to be in the
Gotta be.
playoff.
I mean,
It's
no one's
gotta
ever
be.
had 4. So
And then
Kyle will figure it out. Kyle will get in the archives and he will find out what the record is.
So,
but on top of that, he had 138 yards on those 3 interceptions.
yeah, that's even more impressive for sure.
Yeah. Unreal.
But, yeah, and Kyle, West Carroll, I felt like they had some chances in this one. I just couldn't quite get. They had a couple of key penalties at times. They were in it, but South Fork at the end of the day was just a better team, and Ponies 11-0 heading to the semifinals. So nice win for them. Great win for their program all in all. And
I tell you what,
feel
our
like,
Facebook page is blowing up with Pony support.
Oh,
it's
boy.
awesome. I love it.
yeah, you feel like, Kyle, the teams from the South, or even taking a look at the last 4 or 5 years of 8-man, they're as well equipped as anybody to try to knock off one of these teams from the North or to eventually win a state championship. They seem to be very well rounded for sure. So we'll see how things play out for the Ponies here, and we'll break it down here a little bit. But definitely like the way they're playing right now.
Well, it goes back to what we've talked about many times. I mean, they have a power run game. I mean,
Yep.
George Bailey's just been phenomenal this year. He's sitting at right around 2,300 yards now on the season, if not just a little over that, closing in on 2,400 yards. One of the better all-purpose seasons in IFA history on top of that. And let's be honest, he was an unknown commodity coming into the season. I mean, he ran for 186 yards last season,
Yeah.
and he has really taken it to a whole nother level this year. And it's been amazing. And then you add into it with, the play of like Jude Walker and Carter Elder and Brody Pop,
Yep.
Brody Lush. And then we've talked about it umpteen times, just the play of Brody Van Hooser as well.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
I mean,
Very well rounded, like the way they're playing.
in the playoffs, I think we've always see this conclusion of run teams do well, right? And they run the football well. Kyle has his shirt on just for that. But here's what's gonna happen now. You played a West Carroll from the NUIC. Now you got 3 of the teams that they've heard about sitting in front of them, and for South Fork to win a state championship, they're going to earn it if they're going to make it there,
Right.
because they're going to play a storied 8-man team in Polo, who's been there before many, many times, and we talked about it. And then you have on the other side Milledgeville and Amboy facing off, and the winner of the Polo South Fork game will get the winner of that. So, we heard a lot bulletin board material and South and North. Well, you're gonna, if you're gonna win it all, and you want to, as a South team, want to be in that mix, like we've talked about, you got to beat the best, and the 3 best teams of 8-man. I think we all know that the 3 best teams that a lot of people feel are sitting in front of you right now, and you got to go through 2 of them.
Yeah, without a doubt. Very well said, Jay. Very well said.
That's what I'm here for.
I know. I know. I can't wait. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I just talked about it because you look at the coaches also. We talk on air, off air. Coaching matters, right?
Yep.
And you got Ted Alston from Polo, Mr. 8-man, and then my guy,
Your guy,
Coach Roble at Milledgeville, and Scott Payne from Amboy.
the pain train, baby.
Yep.
Kyle's guy.
Yep.
It's like that's what you have, and coaching matters. Coaching matters this time of year. We see that in 11-man and 8-man, and you have 3 coaches there also that know how to get the job done. It's the best 4 teams I think of 8-man. It played out the best 4 teams. South Fork is one of the top 4. It's just how do they match up? And they do it right though. They run the football really well.
Yeah.
Right.
I do. I like what Coach Zach Hanlon and his staff is doing. I've talked a lot to both Coach Kirkendall and to Coach Hanlon here throughout the course of the season, and more so here over the past couple weeks as well. Just, one, congratulating them on a great job, and of course, just talking about different things on, what South Fork's doing, and getting information from them so we're more knowledgeable. Obviously, I've been able to watch South Fork play twice now, along with different clips throughout, but I've watched 2 full games, and it's about as hell. I've only watched Amboy play once this year, and that was back in week 1 because I haven't. What was there? What else was there to watch with Amboy? Let's be honest. I mean, we kind of knew
Right.
that the road that they would be on is the
Eddie
road that
Eddie
they're
keeps
at.
us informed.
He does. Well, I'll take that back. I did watch Amboy twice because I watched them through video on last this past week during the playoffs. I watched the Pawnee game, so I was tuned in for that. But I mean, Milledgeville, I was there for the first half of their game on Saturday, and then obviously I was at the Polo St. Anne game for the entire game as I was on the broadcast crew for that one, which was a ton of fun. And huge shout out to Wyatt Reed and of course to Dwayne Hewlett for reaching out and asking me to be part of the show, because I tell you what, we talked about it last week, Joe. It's a bunch of fun when you can get on and do that stuff. And
Oh yeah, without a doubt. So
it was fun. It was fun. And I was really anticipated for a big game. And that speaking of that game, that's another game to me that really stuck out as what we had noted last week was that St. Anne could not live on the deep ball in order to find success against Polo. And they came out right away trying to establish the run game.
right.
They got off to a quick start, which both
Yep.
myself and Wyatt had talked about was the keys to their success. And they put up the first points on the board. But once Polo got the big 26-yard run out of Mumford and then the 44-yard touchdown run on the very next play,
Right.
and then the 2-point conversion to follow it, it was just, you could see the difference from where Polo is now to even where they were back in week 3 against West Carroll and week 4 against Milledgeville. This is definitely a different Polo team right now.
Yeah, I mean, Polo's clicking on all cylinders right now. They really are. They're using the guys they have. The coaching staff's finding ways to use the guys they have. They're running some different plays than what you saw in weeks 3 and 4. JT Stevenson playing much better at quarterback right now. And of course, Mercer Mumford's doing what he does. And yeah, Kyle, that it just got away from St. Anne in such a hurry. The game was 14-6 or 14-8 at the end of the first, 14-6, I believe.
14-6.
And then Polo just put it on him in that second quarter. And then if St. Anne had any hope going to the locker room, Polo squashed that, scoring that last play of the first half. So to make it 38-6 going into half. So again, Kyle, we talk about, the Polos and the Amboys and Milledgevilles, kind of what separates them. Those teams put points on the board, but at the end of the day, their defense gets it done. And Polo's got it done against a very good St. Anne offense on Saturday. They allowed that first touchdown. And that was on a short field. Langelier had a nice kickoff return to set St. Anne up early. Polo actually did have a goal line stand to start that game, but then Polo fumbled on their second play from scrimmage, and St. Anne was able to put it in. That's how they scored first. But yeah, all in all, I mean, here's the thing, Kyle, for St. Anne, you look at the 2 games they lost this year, they couldn't stop the run. Couldn't stop George Bailey when they played South Fork, and they couldn't stop Mercer Mumford and JT Stevens when they played Paul. They just couldn't stop the run. And it did not help St. Anne, the weather, with their passing game. They had some drops that I'm assuming those guys usually catch some of those balls. Now, I think Polo still wins the game, if it's 65 and sunny. But, the weather did not help St. Anne at all in that one. And Polo was able to take advantage and this ended up being a running clock, actually. So,
Yeah. It's one of those things where going back into that game, and it's something I brought up on the broadcast too, was you could almost anticipate what St. Anne was going to do. I mean, right away they tried to establish
Yep.
their run game with
yeah, they
Cliff Tom,
did.
and they were
really
finding
did.
success there. But then Polo made the right adjustments, and I think I had them down to like 29 yards of offense on like
Mhm.
12 carries because Polo's defense just started to shut it down.
Yep.
And overall, I know I listened to your podcast this weekend, and you didn't count like the 18-yard loss that they had on the snap over the head.
Right.
Unfortunately, it does go down as rushing yards.
Yeah, I know.
But
I was.
and I get what you're saying. It was not Pomeranski's fault by any
Right.
stretch of the
Correct.
imagination. It is what it is. It was bad weather, bad snap, creating bad weather. But with that, we talked about Wyatt Placknell and Damon Rao on the defensive line, but man, Ethan Dewey really helped solidify his side of the field. And then Eli Perez and Esteban Salinas too had huge games for Polo.
Yeah, they did. Salinas and Perez, the two juniors at linebacker, really stepped up here the last few weeks. Actually, Salinas, he was first team all conference selection at linebacker. And Perez, he's a kid that wasn't playing a lot at the beginning, was playing some, but he's really found a place there in that Polo defense, and he's been big these last 3 or 4 weeks for the Marcos. Then of course defensive back, you got Mercer Mumford and JT Stevens and Jordan Reed. That combination of those three, depending on which two are in the game, I mean, those guys were coming up and making hits also. So again,
they
this
were
Polo
kind of
defense
picking on Reed a little bit.
Yeah, well, you're not going to pick on Mumford, so
No.
I mean, he's who's going to get picked on,
And that was one of the things where once Reed was able to make that adjustment to cover Langelier, and then on top of that, then they switched the coverage too, because then they pulled Mumford onto Langelier. Right. That started to change the scope of that game in a hurry, because they continued to put Langelier on one side of the ball and bring everybody else on the other side, hoping to get that one-on-one matchup. But like we said, I mean, it just wasn't working.
Yeah. And Wyatt Placknell, you saw it, Kyle, in the backfield. It's like watching Carter Livingood play the middle of that defense for Milledgeville, like Placknell does for Polo. Even if they're not making the tackle, they are disrupting things almost every single play. Like you can't get comfortable in that backfield, with Placknell coming at you.
Well, the other thing that you find in games like that, when you have a kind of a pass team versus a run team, and Polo's doing their thing on the defensive line, it just gets out of hand in a hurry, because what we always talk about, you throw the ball, it's incomplete, you stop the clock. Before you know it, you're mid first quarter, second quarter, and your time of possession is way down, and you're giving the ball how many more times to a Mumford, right?
Right.
What South Fork has is they have George Bailey, right? So they're gonna run the football. The question it's gonna come down to is, how does South Fork's defense stop Mumford, and how does Polo's defense match up for stopping a running back in Bailey? And I think Polo has played some very good running backs this year and done a great job. I don't know what a South Fork has matched up against as running backs running at them. You can look at West Carroll, but I don't know if they run the football like some teams run the football, right? They're a run / pass type, but both of these teams, it's going to come down to what defense has what it takes to stop the other guy's best player. And they're both at the running back position, and they're both going to run right at you. So I mean, when you talk like that, you just got to think, Polo has seen some really good running backs. You want to see the George Bailey matchup.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
sure.
you do. I mean, the kid has 2,300
can't
yards.
wait.
You talked about that. You see all their clips when you start doing stuff on Facebook and all that of how electric their crowd is, and it's electric, and they got fireworks going off and all of those things, right? But
Oh, you're paying attention,
well,
Jay.
yeah, you got to Facebook stalk something. You can stalk that stuff and not get in trouble, but you got to be careful with other stuff. But all I'm saying is, what are they going to do? Have they seen a Mercer Mumford? Because he is different, right? And
Right.
yes, he doesn't have the yardage, and everybody has different ways of getting yards. It's like I look at it this way sometimes: is the best running back the running back that has the most yards? Is the best basketball player the one that averages the most points?
Not
Right?
always.
Not always, right? Like
Not always. Yeah.
what we're going to find out in this game, and it's going to be a challenge. You're right. George Bailey's going to go to bed Friday night, and it's not putting two guys against each other, but you're playing a top 3 team in the state, and what everybody talks about in the in the NUIC world, and that. What are you going to do against a good NUIC team? And Mumford's going to be looking at, all right, I'm the best back, right? It's like
Right.
it's going to be mano a mano, and it's going to be a showdown down in South Fork.
Oh my God! All right, let's get on to the next. We got a lot to unfold and unpack here tonight. Holy crap.
The other game is Milledgeville and
I mean, sir, the breakdown of the games, we're already breaking it down.
well, we're breaking it down.
Yeah, man, I love it. All right, Milledgeville South Beloit was the other game that really stood out to me.
Yep.
Milledgeville scored their first 2 touchdowns after getting fumble recoveries from South Beloit, but then South Beloit was able to punch it in with under a minute left in the first half to make it a 14-6 game at halftime. And then obviously Milledgeville was only able to muster up one more score there in the second half. Like I said, I was only there for the first half, but that first half was very, very physical. We saw a South Beloit team that we had kind of anticipated of seeing all season long, and it finally came out in this game.
Yeah, I like South Beloit's game plan, Kyle, to start the game while they had Harrington and that Wildcat there. That's something I hadn't seen when I'd seen South Beloit play. I don't know if that's the first time they had done it or not, but I like how they're
I'd seen it.
trying to establish Harrington there, keep the ball on the ground, keep the clock moving against Milledgeville. That's the key when you play the missiles. Try to grind out a couple first downs and burn half a quarter up. Yeah, Kyle, that one time they fumbled on the 20-yard line, I think it was. They were driving. I think that was their second possession.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was 0-0 at the end of the first, and Milledgeville got on the board, around the 8-minute mark of the second quarter before they even got on the board. So, and as you said, it was 14-6 going into the half. I mean, South Beloit was right in this thing, and they were matching the physicality of Milledgeville for the most part, I thought. One thing Milledgeville going to have to clean up, obviously, they had the 10 penalties, that's not something you can do from here on out if you're the missiles, and they know that. I'm not telling them something they don't know.
Well, there's a lot of penalties on both sides of the ball that day.
Yeah. So, but all in all, I think it was a nice I still think it's a nice win for Milledgeville. This is a South Beloit team that, I think is maybe a little bit better than what people give them credit for. When they're ready and they're focused, they're ready to go. They're a pretty darn good team. So it's still a good win for Milledgeville here.
I mean, they got beat pretty good by West Carroll. They gave up 70 to Polo, and then they're playing the number 1 team in Milledgeville. And honestly, it starts to make you wonder.
I worry.
Exactly.
I worry, Joe. I'm a missile. I'm a missile guy. And I tell Kyle, I said, I worry I got my gut in 11-man, and I have my gut in 8-man. And
well,
Kyle and I were talking, and
the 2 guts are the same.
My gut, if you know my gut, it normally don't lie to you. I've just seen this play out before, and you just said what
Well,
South Beloit has done the last couple weeks against really good teams. And
yeah.
to be at Milledgeville and to be 22-6 and to be the struggle they are, and now having to go on the road the next game, I worry.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, we'll get into that here more in a little bit, but I still think Milledgeville. I still think it's I'm not. If I'm a Milledgeville fan, I'm not panicking over this 22-6 win. I mean,
Talk to me, Joe.
I would not. I mean, you can't score 36 in the first quarter every game you play. I mean, they had the 10 penalties. You know, uh, But I will say, South Beloit turned the ball over twice. Who knows, Kyle, what happens? They don't turn the ball over twice in that first half.
That's kind of where Jay's leading, I think.
Well, the unfortunate part is last year was the year that we're like, okay, they got over that, because for 4 to 5 years before that, they had bumps in the playoffs that you were just like,
Right.
you were fresh in the quarters, and this was that quarter, and maybe it's like now they'll
Right.
flip that switch and they'll go on the road, and sometimes going on the road is better because
Right.
you're locked in with the hopping on the bus with your boys and riding the bus to the next game, and sometimes that'll get you locked in. But I just worry, it's sometimes when you want to see a team playing its best football here at the end, I expected a bigger, not that a quarterfinal game should be more, but it's like you watch what
Right.
Polo did to a St. Anne. I was looking for that type of second half runaway from a Milledgeville and not a dogfight in the third and fourth quarter.
Right. I would agree. I think people, even if you were surprised at halftime, I think everyone was expecting Milledgeville to pull away in that third quarter, and it didn't really happen. I mean, I don't know
They
if you
get
ever felt like
spoiled.
South Beloit was going to win the game, but I think most would probably expect Milledgeville to pull away in that, like they've done just about every other game this season. And who knows? I don't know. Maybe Milledgeville overlooked them a little bit. The kids, kids can do that once in a while. I don't know. I'm not saying that's the case. I know the coaching staff wasn't overlooking South Beloit for sure.
Oh God, no.
No.
But maybe the kids were a little bit thinking about Amboy. I mean, that's possible. But again, I think South Beloit had a good game plan. I really do. Just couldn't sustain it for 4 quarters. But
We've
I don't
said from week 4 or 5 that they had the talent to play with anybody. I mean, they were
right,
talented, but then down the stretch when they were playing how they did, I think sometimes though, like you said, we get spoiled with every game you should run away and you should win by 30
right,
or 40 if you're the good team, and that don't always happen, and it didn't here. And like I said, I have them picked and I want them to, a Milledgeville team to do well for their program, but we'll find out in a couple days.
All right, let's take a look at that Byron Wealth Management scoreboard. So there were all the final scores from last week's quarterfinals. Milledgeville over South Beloit 22-6. Amboy over Pawnee, the game we have not mentioned, 64-6, but that game pretty much went the way we had anticipated that one going. Polo 46-14 over St. Anne. That was a big shocker to a lot of people. Felt that one was going to be closer. And of course, West Carroll did go into the South Fork game as the favorite. And while the projections showed that West Carroll was going to win on my brackets, I did have South Fork picked to win this game. Remember that?
Yes, Kyle
did.
Kyle did have them there. I think everybody really had South Fork in the Final Four.
I think so.
Right.
Everybody had them in the Final Four. I don't think it's a shocker of where they're at. They're a great football team that runs the football, but now is the true test for these 4 teams.
Yeah. I don't think anyone's surprised by the Final Four. Like if you are,
not at all.
You haven't followed 8-man football,
right?
You just haven't.
The 4 best teams made it.
Yep.
Yes, I agree.
No doubt about that. And boy, are these semifinals going to be a ton of fun or what? This is going to be very, very exciting. Thinking about buying or selling a home? Trust the team that knows this area better than anyone. Best Realty. Whether you're looking for your first home upgrading for more space, or relocating, Best Realty is committed to making the process smooth, honest, and successful. With deep roots in our local communities and a track record of results, Best Realty isn't just in the business of homes, they're in the business of helping families take the next step. Best Realty, local experts, real results, real people. Call today and move with confidence. If you or your loved one has been injured, you need someone who will fight for you. Reese and Reese Injury Attorneys have been serving our community for over 40 years, standing up for people when they need it most. They know how to handle the insurance companies and get results, so you can focus on healing. Don't face it alone. Call Reese and Reese Injury Attorneys today at 815-968-8851 and let their experience work for you. So we got the 3 seed and the number 3 ranked Polo Marcos 10-1. They're going on the road to Kincaid to play the 2 seed and the 5th ranked South Fork Ponies, who are 11-0. Polo obviously beating St. Anne like we just discussed. South Fork beating West Carroll. Last week, we're going to go right to the running backs. Mercer Mumford, 16 attempts, 161 yards on my account, 165 yards on another account. I don't know what you had him at, Joe. 163 maybe?
Somewhere in there. Something like that, yeah.
60-ish.
3 touchdowns, 1 reception for 26 yards and a touchdown. George Bailey on the other side, 22 attempts, 209 yards, and 4 touchdowns.
Not a bad day.
Not a bad day at all. That was easy work for Mr. Bailey as the weeks have gone. I mean, hell, go back to weeks 5, 6, and 7 when they played that gauntlet of St. Anne, Metro East Lutheran, and Pawnee, and he ran for like 700 yards in 2 games.
Yeah.
I mean, he just blew up the scoreboard. And anyway, Jay's already got notes down here. Mumford Bailey. Jay, I want to hear your thoughts first.
Like I said, it's a heavyweight fight between these two. And you know, you watch it, it's going to be turnovers, but it's going to be a great matchup. And I'll be interested to see, because it's, you know, if I'm the Polo Marcos and I'm Mercer Mumford, I feel I'm the best running back in 8-man, right? And if you're George Bailey from South Fork, you feel I got the yards and I should get the respect. Well, this is where you get this is where you get the respect that you do playing a top team in the game to go to state. This is where you make your mark. You don't get it by rushing for 300 yards against an 0-9 team or 200 yards and whatever against a 1-8 team. You make your mark when it's playoff time and it's a game to go to the state. And this is the game where you make your mark if you're George Bailey. This is where you make your mark if you're Mercer Mumford. Understand the fact that Mumford's stats would be different if he didn't miss. How many games did he miss, Joe? 3 games?
3 games.
He missed the first 3 games of the year. He took his hiatus early, and he has fresh legs. So he's still in week 8 or 9 right now. So
for this St. Anne game, he was not cleared, guys, till 4:00 on Friday. Polo didn't know if he was playing till then. So
unbelievable.
Just amazing that it all worked out the way it did. I mean, it really is, because I got to be honest, I really didn't think he was going to play. I really didn't.
I think, though, it will come down to a play action pass or two by their quarterbacks hitting. You know, you watch it in like the Lena games, when you go to like Lena games, right? They're like controlling the ball.
Right.
And right when the team thinks they got them, they'll run that play action pass and the tight end runs down the middle wide open. And it's like, you feel the air go out of the thing. That's going to happen to one of these teams, right? That's going to happen to the Polo quarterback or the South Fork quarterback is going to have to make a play or two, because as I'm saying it, and you're going to say it, and Joe's going to say it, Mumford versus Bailey, Bailey versus Mumford. It's going to be some kid that wakes up on Saturday is going to make a hell of a play to get their team to state. And it's going to be a quarterback receiver or quarterback running back that's going to go open and go from it's going to be that 8 to 6 point lead, and it's going to take it to 14 or 16. And then you see in those games, everybody presses and they call plays how they shouldn't. And that's where you got to see where Coach Zach Hanlon is, if they get down, how he handles it, because Ted Alston's been there. right? Ted Austin's
Right.
been to how many state titles? He's been down in
Right.
key moments. You know he's going to be there. How does Coach Hanlon respond if they get down early against the Polo team?
Yep.
Well, and the other thing, Kyle, let's talk about the quarterbacks here for a second. JT Stevens from Polo, St. Anne game, 17 carries, 167 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had the one 26-yard TD pass as well. And then, Brody Van Hooser for South Fork. He was 4 for 6 passing for 78 yards, and he ran for another 53 yards and 9 carries. Both of these guys, Cal, they've been getting it down with their legs all season. Stevenson, he has 20 rushing touchdowns on the season from the quarterback position. I don't think anyone at Polo would have guessed that at the beginning of the season. That just really wasn't necessarily the game plan, but Stevenson's really, done well in the schemes that Polo's put in for him. And obviously it helps having a back like Mumford, who, the defense is keying on. Let's be honest, that doesn't hurt anything either. But that's the thing, guys. These defenses can't, you can't fall asleep on Stevenson and Van Hooser, kind of like Jay was talking about passing, but also running the ball. These guys are just as dangerous. They're both possibly more dangerous running the ball than they are throwing the ball if you start concentrating on Mumford and Bailey too much.
Yeah, that's one of the things that stuck out to me. I mean, go back all the way to week 3 when I was in Mount Carroll to watch West Carroll and Polo. One of the things I felt hurt Polo was and I'm not trying to be mean, but I just didn't feel like JT Stevenson was playing to a level that was indicative of how Polo wanted to play.
Right.
But you fast forward to how he played recently, and of course in this game against St. Anne.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, this
Yes.
kid is growing a ton this year.
Right.
In that aspect of the game, and it showed in this game. I mean, the pure excitement out of his play, both for me as a fan and then just his own personal excitement on the field itself. I watched him literally pump up his teammates. That was leadership qualities that I questioned earlier in the season. I don't question it now. He is locked in at a whole nother level right now, and it's so much fun to watch. And then the same, like you said, with Hoosie on the other side of the ball. I mean, he has done some great things for the South Fork offense that who would have expected that? Nobody expected this. They were going to have a sophomore QB.
Right.
And then you get first-year players step in, and he's been on a whole nother level.
Yeah, it's a great story. It really
God,
is.
it's so fun to watch. and I hate to keep repeating myself week after week, but when you see the results come out, it just continues to impress you what is going on here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, without a doubt. And Kyle, let's take a look at the other side of the ball here. Both of these teams on the defensive side of the ball, they got all staters, and they're just littered with all conference guys. I mean, both these teams got playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. You look at Polo, Placknell and Rao, both all staters, defensive side of the ball on that front line. And you go Mumford at corner, and again, Salinas at linebacker. And then you take a look at South Fork, what they bring to the table. You got Carter Elder on the line there. He's, honorable mention all-stater. Of course, we've talked about Brody Pop, what he does at linebacker, along with Jude Walker, that end position. And then, of course, we talked about Brody Lush, the 3 interceptions he had against West Carroll. I mean, these defenses got plenty of guys that can make plays and plenty of guys that can change games. I mean, this is going to be a great matchup. It really is. I can't wait for it.
Joe, how do you see, because like I said, I keep going back and beating that drum. How do you see Polo's D line matching up with South Fork's offensive line and vice versa?
Yeah, I mean, I think both defensive lines may have a slight advantage here, Kyle. I really do. I just think they're that good. I've seen the Polo defensive line all season. What Rao and Placknell bring to the table, the two seniors here. They haven't been stopped. I mean, they really haven't. The only way they've been stopped is when they've been held. I mean, that's honestly the only way they've been stopped all season, or double teamed. And the way now that, you got Ethan Dewey playing that other end position for Polo, makes these guys even tougher. So, as far as the other side of the ball, or when South Fork is on defense and Polo has the ball, kind of the same thing. I mean, I'm interested to see how guys like Jude Walker and Carter Ella do against this Polo team, because Polo, again, guys, we know what they're going to do. If they get 4 yards every time, they're happy. You know what I mean? So, it's going to be fun to see how those offensive and defensive lines do match up. But I'd probably if you're asking me to pick a side, I probably do give the defensive lines of both teams maybe a slight edge over the offensive lines of the other teams. But again, that'll all be shook out Saturday at 4:00.
No, and that's the biggest thing is it's who's going to win the line of scrimmage.
Right.
Because if you win the line of scrimmage, you're in the backfield against a good running back that he'll have to run. We always call it, you want a running back like that to run east-west, not north-south, because once they get their shoulders turned, running north-south, you're in trouble, right? Because they're expected to break tackles against defensive backs. So if you get them running east-west, you got a shot and they don't get their shoulders turned. The biggest thing I think is going to be is just coaching up on defense of who's going to be the most disciplined team.
Right.
And that comes down to who's going to stay home when it's fake pitch away and they run a counter back to a guy throwing back. If Polo can do that, they will be in good shape. If they don't, that's where South Fork will have an advantage, and vice versa, right? But Polo does so many things well. I have not seen much of South Fork other than, the highlight videos where everybody looks good in highlight videos, right?
Right.
But in seeing Polo up close, that's what they do well. Fundamentally sound. They stay home and allow each player to make their do their job. And if South Fork can do that, it's going to be a hell of a game. If not, that's where you get the big plays, because somebody doesn't believe someone's going to make a tackle on Mumford. They try to make it and they sneak a guy out the backside for a long pass, and momentum switches, and momentum is key in a game like this, because the pressure that these kids are facing is huge. This is to go to a state championship and play for one down in Monmouth.
Yeah, and you look at that too, Jay, from that aspect. South Fork, this is the first year they've made it out of the quarter or out of the first round, but this is a very senior laden team. A lot of seniors on this South Fork team, So this is it for the Ponies here as far as these seniors. I mean, they know you got a chance on your home field to get to state. I mean, what more can you ask for as a senior football player? These seniors have been together for 4 years now. A lot of these guys were playing in playoff games when they were sophomores, So, and again, this is their chance to prove to everybody that, hey, they can play with these teams from the north.
Yeah, I
mean,
it's
going to be fun.
Yeah, you hear about it. And if I was from the South, I get tired of hearing everybody from the North talking their ridiculousness of they play better football. Well, there's no better way to tell everyone to be quiet than to beat a Polo and then beat a Milledgeville Amboy, and then you can not have to worry about it. But if you don't do that, well, then everybody from the North will keep saying what they're saying, because a Northern team will win another state title.
And I'll say this too, guys. I mean, South Fork, let's be honest, the whole town of Kincaid is going to be there, I mean, you see their crowds. I can see them on the, watching their highlights, the crowds they bring. I mean, they're going to have a big advantage there. Polo's got the 3 hour and 15-minute drive down there.
They got fireworks.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to have a huge home field advantage here. That means a little something, but again, a team like Polo has been here before. They've won in tough environments before in the playoffs and won. They've done it at Ridgewood. They've done it at Milledgeville, so this is a new territory for them. But, it is a new group of kids here. So, I just don't think that's something you can just overlook in this game either. South Fork gonna have a huge crowd advantage here.
So first,
We'll
The-
let you
the
talk now, Kyle.
the
Kyle's back.
the north
Me and
south.
Jay have been busy talking.
No, you're good. I enjoyed the conversation. The north south talk, like you said, is it ridiculous? No, it's not. The North has owned 8-man football. Coach Hanlon has said it.
Right.
He knows.
He knows. Yeah.
This is exactly what you want if you're him and his team. You want
Mhm.
that opportunity. But is it ridiculous for us to state that the top teams are coming from the North? No, because it's
No.
only the facts.
Right.
And I understand where fans come from, and I understand why I get a lot of I don't want to say hate, but animosity thrown at me. And it's easy. It's not disrespect, it's just factual information that I put out, and all of a sudden I hate all these schools. I don't hate any of these schools. You know,
You have to pick a winner.
I've talked to Coach Cook. We had him on our playoff show. I've talked to Coach Talley. He was on our playoff show. Talked to Coach Hanlon. He was on our playoff show.
Right.
You know, I'm friends with Coach Schwartz down at MCP. I've talked to Coach Root a lot at St. Anne. You know, I've had a couple of email conversations with Coach Baird at Martinsville. I mean, I don't know. It's not that I hate anybody, but the facts are what the facts are. Polo has been to the state championship twice. Amboy has been to the state championship the other 3 times. Amboy's won 2. Polo's won 2. Orangeville's been there. Milledgeville's been there.
Yes.
So in 5 years, you've had 7 teams represent the area at the state championship, all from the North.
Right.
And the only other team to win it in that time is West Central. And while they're not technically a North team, they're in the West Division, where in the former North-South split, they were in the North split.
I like the
Right.
stepbrother North.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
count them. We'll count them as North for our purposes.
Now, on the other side of it, the fireworks display, I've heard that somebody's spending like thousands of dollars for that crap. So, which is great. I love it. Don't get me wrong. I shouldn't say crap. It's not crap, but
Careful, Kyle.
but I will say it is very cool to have that. So if you're a South Fork player, I know that they are, but you have to just sit back and relish in the moment and just soak it all in, because
Right.
the community support that they're getting and the excitement around this program right now is at an all-time high.
Yes.
So enjoy every single minute of it, because 30 years from now,
Yep.
when we're long done doing this podcast, you're going to sit back and think, remember those 3 guys always talking about the podcast? Remember the fireworks that we used to run out to? Those were great times, man.
Yeah. No,
Guarantee it.
Yeah, and that, Kyle, that's remember how many people showed up when we played polo in the semifinal? I mean, those kids are going to be talking about that 15, 20 years from now, whether they win or lose.
Longer than that.
That's what small school football is all about, though, right there. That's why we love what we do right here, because that's what it's about.
On to my next subject. And Jay, this is probably going to be more geared towards you, since you are a coach in football.
I play one.
If you're Polo, do you take the field before or after the fireworks display?
I'm one of them. In everything, I always say wait till after.
That's what
I'm an after guy. Like even for basketball, I'll do a stalemate that I'm taking the court after another team. And now I just gave all my secrets out for that. But I want that advantage of when you take the field and the other team takes the field after. Everybody,
Right.
it's, what's going on, right? Like I always tell, last year with our girls team and this and that, I look at Delaney and Natalie and say, wait till they take it. When you take the court, you own it, right?
Yeah.
It's your thing. You don't blink for anybody. You don't move out of the way for anybody. You own that, right? You have to have that mentality. No different than football. If I'm Polo, I'm waiting till 3 minutes. I'm waiting. If I got to, I'm waiting till 3 minutes left for national anthem. I'm coming out for national anthem. I'm not getting in trouble for that, but I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying I'm taking it after, and I'm walking onto that field, jogging on with an attitude, because I want every South Fork player, fan, to look at that Polo jersey, because they're not just playing Polo, they're playing, the team that's been there over and over again.
Right.
And that's what you're playing. It's like when you're playing, when we talk about when you're playing a league win in playoffs, right? Sometimes they're not that much better than other teams, but you're playing, Coach Oran walks out and you see Coach Oran and you see the players come out and they do their stuff. They take the field and, all the players on the other teams are kind of giving the look back.
Yeah.
If I'm Polo, I'm after the fireworks, and then I am the firework right after it. I'm lighting shit up is what I'm doing.
And that's exactly why I asked that, because that's my thought process. I'm going to warm up on whatever.
I'll go on the damn street and warm up before I take the field before them, because I want them to wonder where are these guys at. And I just take the field with a, it's my field and you got to take it from us. We're there.
Hey, Jay, I want to comment on what you said there. And, I'm a little biased here, and I hate to keep bringing this up for our Milledgeville faithful that listen every week. But 2 years ago when Polo beat Milledgeville in the semifinal, right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember Milledgeville, they come out in the field, they're jumping around. They're running out down the hill like they do at Milledgeville. And Polo just walks out like, two guys next to each other just walking out, holding hands, 2, 2, and 2, all the way out like you're showing up to work. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't this running out and jumping around, and they just walked out like they do every other game, if that makes sense. They weren't worried about what the other team was doing, but that's just one example.
You say the thing, be like they've been, be there like you've played there or whatever, like you've been there before, and some of them haven't, but it's just one of those things to where I think in a moment like this, just the focus has to be there, and you don't win any games in pregame, right? But you can lose a game in pregame, to where if you're trying to do things you're not, you'll lose the game. And if I always tell, and now in coaching girls, it's like I always tell them, you don't have to do anything you're not, just let's do the things we're good at. And what Polo is good at is playing good defense, running the football, and not making mistakes. And if they do that on Saturday, they're gonna be just fine, right?
Yep, exactly.
It's gonna be the team that blinks first in this game, that tries to do something that they're not, and that's why it's gonna be a great game, because it's not like it's air versus ground. This is ground versus ground with some play action. South Fork was 4 for 6, 78 yards and a touchdown. And, so they weren't overthrowing the ball in that win versus West Carroll. They're going to have to find something. But like I said, if you're asking me who the pressure is on, even though, we talk north, all the pressure's on South Fork.
Right.
You're playing, I don't want to sound anything, but you're playing for the South.
Yeah.
You're playing for every South football team that, gets quote unquote the bias versus the North. You're undefeated. You have possibly the best running back in 8-man.
Right.
They can talk whatever they want to talk. Dude, you're undefeated and you're a top 4 team in the state, and you're playing for, nobody is doubting that you're a good team. All the pressure is on South Fork. There is zero pressure on Polo, because if Polo would happen to lose the game, they lost their 2 games to 2 good football teams.
Right.
They lost at South Fork, which it's tough to win on the road. They can go out there and just play good football and see what happens. So the game will be won and lost, I think, in the mid first quarter, second quarter. It's going to be who gets that change of possession, that gets that extra touchdown going into half, and then you got to set all halftime about it. If Polo can get up at halftime, I think they'll come out with a win. I think it's such that big momentum thing. South Fork is playing for so much in this game that
Right.
they got to win.
So let's reverse the ball here. You're South Fork, you're Coach Zach Hamlin. How do you approach that and put that into your team?
You're just playing another football team, and you can't make it about North and South. You have to make it. It's one game, and you have played yourself into the position, and you're just as good as any other team, and you got to play your thing, and you got to block, you got to run, and you got to tackle. That's all we got to do, and that's what they do well, right?
They do.
George Bailey just has to be George Bailey.
Yeah.
You don't got to do anything, and we would, I've said that I've been able to coach some really good players, and I would just look at them and say, you just got to be you, right? Like
Right.
George Bailey, you just got to do what George Bailey does every game. And that's run the damn football and score touchdowns, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, stick to the game plan. Yeah.
who hasn't done that for you? And, let's look around, and nobody. So why is it going to change this game?
Yeah.
We're going to light the fireworks early, and we're going to put Polo on their damn bus. And Joe talking about junior high basketball next week on his podcast. That's what Joe's going to be doing. He ain't going to be taking that trip to Monmouth anymore.
Yeah. I tell you what, I can't wait to go down there and announce this game on the radio, guys, for WLT. I am so excited making my first trip down to Kincaid, semifinal game. Again, South Fork 11-0, Polo 10-1. This is going to be a fun one. I am pumped to get down there and check out the field, see the fireworks, and see one heck of a football game, I would assume, here on Saturday afternoon.
Well,
into
I'm going to
Saturday
be
night.
there. I'm going to be there in spirit with you from Minnesota, but I'm going to definitely be tuned into this one. It's going to be a lot of fun. Let's talk about the numbers real quick before we go on to our next game. Polo enters as a 3-point favorite, but the projections have Polo winning by 14 points.
Projections. I would say this.
Not my personal pick.
Yeah, I would say this.
We're waiting for that. Everybody's waiting for that, Kyle.
I would say this for the last thing for South Fork. We seen it, and I go back, and this is where, if you're South Fork and you want to play with the Polo, this week has to be like every other week,
Right.
and this week, up to the game, has to be like every other week. And what you see sometimes in these situations is something changes, or you get Johnny and Pat want to do something special for the kids before the game. You need, what you need to do in this game is, what have you done every other game? And I talked about that, earlier in the game when I talked about a different 11-man matchup, how I think it'll go different the second time around because of so much different things that were happening in that game. The same thing happens in playoffs when you get to this spot and all of a sudden everybody wants to make it everything but about the game. If you see different things happening, that takes the mind off of that game. That's where I see Polo comes out swinging right away.
All right.
Because I know Polo's been there and done it,
yeah.
and I know Coach Alston's gonna have his boys ready. Joe's ready.
I know.
Joe's ready.
Are you waiting for my? Is that your pick?
Yes, I was going to just say, I'm going to let you pick first.
You're gonna let me pick first?
Yes. I already know who you're picking.
You can't
Marcos,
go
baby.
Marcos.
Marcos.
Does that thing? Does that thing?
State?
You gotta wear that. You gotta wear that the rest
It
of
don't
the.
fit.
You gotta wear that the rest of the time here. You just gotta keep it on.
I tried.
You gotta take the air out.
All right, Jay, who's your pick?
Who's my pick?
Yep, who's your pick?
Like I said, they've done it before. I picked them when, I mainly picked who I wanted and think hopefully will win a state title. But I see Polo, if they can stay healthy through 4 quarters. Health is key for Polo.
Yep.
If they stay healthy, I see them running away with this one. Literally and figuratively.
I go back to what the playoff show, what I
Yep.
said there.
Yep.
And I said South Fork is on a mission.
Yes, they are.
They have to beat a team from the north to start proving that mission. And it was going to start with West Carroll. And they took care of West Carroll. Now they got to take on Polo, and they get to do it in their own backyard. They have the mystique. They have the fireworks. They have every town between Morrisonville, Edinburgh,
Every Southern team.
Kincaid. Hell, they're going to have everybody from Pawnee coming over.
Yep.
It's going to be a big old country neighborhood. I'm going to stick with what I said before. South Fork books their trip to state.
All right.
That's where I'm staying. I won't be surprised if Polo wins, though. Anyway, let's talk about
The
our...
least talked game we've talked about so far.
We'll talk about that coming up after this. When it comes to planning for your future, you want someone you can trust. At Prairie State Investments, Mark Pfeiffer is here to help you build a plan that fits your life, your family, and your goals. Whether it's retirement, college savings, or investing wisely for tomorrow, Mark has the knowledge and local commitment to guide you every step of the way. Don't leave your future up to chance. Call Mark Pfeiffer at Prairie State Investments today at 815-668-8131 and start investing with confidence. Our Prairie State 8-man game of the week takes us back to the harbor.
Your place.
The
harbor.
Number 5 Amboy, the number 2 ranked team in state, enters at 10-1. They are going to play host to the number 1 seed, number 1 ranked Milledgeville Missiles, who are 11-0. Before we even break into this game, obviously these two met up back in week 1. Milledgeville won that game 30-22. That game came down to the last 35 seconds of the game. And you got to think that Amboy wants back what they feel is theirs.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. They do for sure. And again, I've said this, Kyle, since the preseason. When these two teams meet in week 1, it's going to be a lot different if they meet in weeks 11, 12, or 13. Well, they're getting ready to meet here in week 12. And it's going to be a battle at the harbor for sure. There's no doubt about it. This is going to be a fun one, so where do we want to start here, guys? Offense, defense, where do you want to start here, Kyle, with this
Special
one?
teams.
All right. Let's start with what happened last week. Obviously,
All right,
Milledgeville beat South
that
Beloit
first.
22-6, which we talked about.
Yep.
Amboy beat Pawnee 64-6. Nothing that we weren't surprised by.
No.
Let's be honest. We knew that kind of score was going to happen in that game. Jose Lopez, my guy.
Your guy. Kyle's
Yeah.
guy, Eddie. Jose.
16 attempts, 262 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Huge night for Jose.
Mm-hmm.
Colt
Yeah,
McCoy
200 in the first half.
Yeah. Colt McCoy added 13 attempts, 78 yards, 2 touchdowns, plus a 70-yard punt return touchdown. Jay's guy.
My guy, Colt McCoy.
Caden Heath, surprisingly, 5 attempts to just 19 yards. So clearly Pawnee was kind of focused on Heath, but Lopez and McCoy did all the other work. And that's the problem with the 3-headed monster when you're
Right.
playing 8-man football.
Yeah.
Anyway, Tanner Welch, 3 for 7 passing, 67 yards and a touchdown. Those 3 receptions all went to Cody Wynn. On the other side of the ball, against South Beloit, Spencer Nye, the touchdown guy, as Kyle Leach likes to say, 25 attempts, 138 yards, a touchdown, threw a 31-yard touchdown pass, had 2 receptions, also had 5 tackles, 2 tackles for a loss. Evan Shank picked up 6 attempts on the ground, 50 yards and a touchdown. Carter Livingood, 3 attempts for 35 yards. That 31-yard receiving touchdown from Nye. Also had 7 tackles and a tackle for a loss. Kyson Francis, 3 for 8 passing, only 8 yards plus an interception. Clearly, that was where some of what Milledgeville did last week against South Beloit kind of fell apart. They weren't able to get their play action pass game going that they thrive on.
Right.
Likewise, the rush game wasn't there like we're used to seeing out of the Missiles. I mean, again, tip of the cap to Coach Radesky and getting his Sobos to play big against the number 1 ranked team in state.
But Kyle, you do love the fact that Spencer Nye had 25 carries in this game, though, too.
Well, that's what we and you talked about. We needed to see Nye have that in order for Milledgeville to have solidified success. No doubt about that. I will state, I never felt like Milledgeville was out of this game. Despite the fact that South Beloit was able to keep it close, I felt like Milledgeville had the most control in the game.
Yeah, my worry is in a game versus Amboy, Milledgeville is going to have to get some big plays. My worry is if they're not sharp passing, if they don't do the little things again. You're going to Amboy. It's tough to beat a good team multiple times in a season. And whatever football, basketball, whatever you're playing, you play a really good basketball team or football team twice. It is a tough matchup. I would have loved to seen, like we talked about earlier in depth, Milledgeville look sharper. South Beloit is 2 weeks away from, giving up how many versus Polo?
Yeah, 70.
70. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
You kind of like look around and then, you struggle offensively against the South Beloit team and you don't pass well. You have 8 yards passing and an interception when they've been big play offense the whole year. You hope it's one game. You hope maybe, like we talked about, as much as the coaches, I'm sure, didn't say, they were maybe looking like, okay, everybody's putting the crown on our head that we're going to Amboy, playing them. That's what you hope. That's what I hope, because I've been a Milledgeville backer all year. Because I hope it's their turn. But in this setup, it ain't, you find sometimes it's not your turn. And Amboy's playing some of the best football week in and week out. They've been cranking it. We talk about it, and Kyle and I talk about it, whether, it's whatever sport it is, certain teams, certain coaches make sure their teams are playing at a higher level this time of year. Amboy is starting to hit that, right? And yes, we seen the Pawnee score coming, so it's really hard to see that, but the confidence level coming out of Amboy, I'm sure those kids are probably ready for this game. It's it's at
more ways than one.
It's at their house. They got to come there. Milledgeville has to travel. It's going to be a great game.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing, Kyle. Every week we talk about all these teams, I don't recall us saying one negative thing about Amboy this season.
No.
There was never a time we said, well, Amboy isn't doing this or Amboy isn't doing that. Like, ever since that week 1 game against Milledgeville, they have been on a mission. They've been laser focused for the Clippers since week 1.
And they just ran out of time. Really, I mean, it was late in the game and they lost the game. So I mean, it was one game.
And I just look at this defensive line, Amboy, Evan Flanagan, Trevor Stenzel, Caden Heath, what these guys are doing on the defense side of the ball for Amboy just seems so much improved since week 1. I mean, they are shutting other teams' run games down. And granted, they haven't played anybody the level of Milledgeville. I understand that. But the other thing, guys, going on the other side of the ball, Jay, we talk about it off air, on air. I've seen it. What's one of the ways to control Milledgeville's high-powered offense. Run the ball,
Run the football.
3 or 4 yards at a time, chew the clock, chew up half a quarter, 7, 8 minutes, score a touchdown. It keeps that Milledgeville offense off the field. And if there's one team that's capable of doing that in these playoffs, it's the Amboy Clippers.
Yeah, they do so many things well. And like we looked at the stats of the game, every week it's somebody different. Last week was Lopez. You got my guy Colt, like throwing the football, running the football. They bring so many things to the picture that if they shut, and that's why I talked about what worried me was the passing game of Milledgeville against a South Beloit team, because Amboy team's going to have just as many athletes in the backside, right, as a South Beloit. Because that's what we talked about South Beloit, why they were the team they were. They brought athletes to the table, and they match up well. Amboy brings an abundance of athletes with a D-line. Passing's going to be key in this game because they're going to have enough to shut Nye down, I think, that they're going to have to hit the big play. They're going to have to hit crossing routes. They're known for crossing routes. They're going to have to hit some of them big ones early.
I mean, Kyson Francis had one heck of a game week 1, Kyle. You were there. I mean,
oh yeah,
he was awesome week 1 against, he's been awesome all year, but he was awesome week 1 at Amboy. I mean, he was
our player of the player of the week that week.
Player of the week. I mean, so, Milledgeville is probably going to look to, pass the ball some, obviously, in this game. But again, Jay, like we talked about, that's where you make that mistake, that one mistake, and give Amboy that extra possession. That's where it can really bite you this time of year.
You throw the bad pick. You have a quick 3 and out of 20 seconds off the clock. Amboy goes back to work. All of a sudden, now you're down, and you give up 2 2-point conversions, and now you're down 16. And in your mind, you're thinking, I got to be perfect now. And you make it, you think, then you don't. If you do get a touchdown and you don't get it, now it's a 3 touchdown game. Like those things start falling apart for you in this type of game.
And the other thing too, Kyle, it seems like almost every week, there might have been one game, maybe 2, but every week Amboy's either got a kick or punt return touchdown or a defensive touchdown. They're not only scoring offensively, they're finding ways to score, off or defense or special teams as well. I think there might have just been one week where they didn't have either a special teams or a defensive touchdown.
Well, that's where Jay wanted to start with special teams.
In this type of game, it's going to be, we talk about it. It's going to be a pick, a turnover, or a punt return. And both, Milledgeville has some of the best special teams there is with what they do. But that's what it's going to, like a game changer we talk about. You could go back to the game we talked about with South Fork Polo. That could be changed with a turnover, special team, touchdown. They're just big game changers that we watched in 11-man, 8-man. Those just change the outlook of a game and the mentality of a team, that sudden high that you get and the quick low when you give one of them big home runs up. And I could see that happening in this game. A big pick, 3 and out, punt return, touchdown. Something that what Amboy has to do to win is get up 2 scores and make Milledgeville press. That's what they have to do to win the game. And I know that sounds like really easy sitting here, like just get up two scores on the number 1 team in the state. But Amboy is capable of doing that. And that's where I could see Coach Payne, then you make them press and then you just run the damn football right at them. And like you talked about earlier, Joe, you take their offense and big play ability off. And then all of a sudden you're predictable because you're just looking for the big play to try to get back in and you press too much.
Well, Kyle, here's another thing too I want to look at too. You look at Milledgeville, they've tried to use Carter Livingood some offensively, running the ball or send him out as a receiver.
Yep.
I don't know if you can afford to take Livingood off the offensive line as good as this Amboy defensive line is. Like, yeah, you can maybe sneak at a play or 2, but you got to have him blocking.
So the first time around, that's exactly what they didn't do. I I think they threw 1 touchdown pass to him. Or was it 2? Maybe it was 2 touchdowns.
He had 2 against Polo.
Yeah.
Limited
Okay,
did 2.
yeah,
2
that's right, it was
receiving
against Polo.
touchdowns. Yeah.
Well, yeah, against Milledgeville, yeah, they left him on the line more times than not. And like you said, Evan Flanagan and Trevor Stenzel are gonna be huge on that defensive line for Amboy. And outside of Living Good, they're gonna outsize Milledgeville up front. So I agree. It's going to be in Milledgeville's best interest to keep Carter on the line to withstand that 1-2 punch from those guys trying to put pressure on. And then on top of that, where Milledgeville found success, they weren't running the ball early. So it forced them to go to the air where they were able to get Shank and Johnny into the plays. Where they were able to get them big pass plays. And then eventually that started to open up the run game for Nye. And likewise, Kyson Francis was able to get some scramble yards as well. They're going to have something similar in that regard to withstand Amboy. And, we talk about Amboy and Milledgeville being the top 2 teams, all right? We just talked about the strength of schedule for Amboy. Out of the Final 4, Amboy has by far the weakest schedule of the Final 4.
Right.
Doesn't even stand close. Their best team that they played was Milledgeville, of which they lost. The best team that they beat was the Pawnee team that they just beat.
Yeah.
Milledgeville
that's out of their control. Yeah.
It is. But when you take a look at the wins that Milledgeville has, they've beat Amboy, North Shelby, Polo, West Carroll, South Beloit.
Yeah.
All 5 of those teams are better than Pawnee.
Right. No,
and
Milledgeville's definitely battle-tested.
And I'm not stating that Amboy can't do the same exact things. That's not what I'm stating. I'm just trying to put the strength of schedule and show where Milledgeville is by far out of the Final 4 has had the toughest schedule.
So when you go into the second time around, and this is a question to both you, Joe and Kyle. I'll quick ask you the question, Kyle. What did Milledgeville do the first game that won them the game against Amboy?
They were able to run the ball in the second half and keep Amboy out. One, they were able to run the ball, so they were able to control the clock.
Yep.
And then the second thing they were able to do is they bend but never broke in their defense. They never allowed Amboy inside the 35-yard line.
So I guess my question to both of you, round 2, Amboy all week's going to be they're going to take away what lost them the game the first time around. What does Milledgeville have that they can do that's going to be different than how they won game 1?
They have to open the passing game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think Kyle, I'd still like to see Nye get 20, 25 touches in this, but I think
I'm not saying that he can't. But you have to be able to, like Jay said, where's Milledgeville's most success?
Well,
it's the crossing routes.
I
you
think
have to get Shank and Johnny
Shank
more
and Johnson
involved into the game.
Shank and Johnson have to be, yes. And you just have to pick your spots at the right time. And it doesn't have to be a deep shot every time. It doesn't have to be a 25-yard pass downfield. Let Shank and Johnson catch it.
No, and that's what Milledgeville's done well is they have played the short routes and let their
right. And even Nye out of the backfield as well. Let's not forget about him.
Well,
he's had a great year
receiving. And he had some big plays in the pass game against Amboy the first time around that then helped open up that run game later in the game.
Yeah, what we always talk about, though, when it's a week 1 game, each team is different than what they are in week 12.
Right.
Correct.
So it's like, to me, it's like Amboy has shored up their issues they had week 1 of allowing that to happen. It's going to be coaching wise, what's Milledgeville going to go in? It's like a running back that ran for a lot of yards the first time. you're going to go the second time and try to stop him. And if you go in as a coaching staff and say, well, we're just going to run this, he's going to run it well again. It's like, okay, well, that may not work. What's plan B? So it's like, what is Milledgeville's counter going to be to how Amboy is going to come out to try to stop them from what they did the first time? And that
Right.
was, does Milledgeville have that in them? That's the question, right? I know they're more battle tested. You can't control your schedule, right? You can only play. So, but at this point, it comes down to just one game and who's better, Amboy or Milledgeville. And who has gotten better from week 1 to now. And that's all that matters now. I mean, it doesn't matter that Amboy beat West Central and Milledgeville beat River Ridge. Those games don't matter. Now it's just what happened week 1 and what's going to happen this week.
No, I just think Milledgeville, when they pass the ball, I think it's got to be quick, safe passes.
Yes.
Not saying Kyson Francis can't go win the game for Milledgeville, but I think you let Johnny and Shank and Nye get those short, safe passes where it's more like a run, where it's 3 or 4 yards, or if they break it, it's 10 to 20 to 30 yards. I think that's the game plan. You don't need those deep shots all the time. I think the game plan should be Nye up the middle, and then something along those lines passing the ball. But again, that's just my opinion.
I agree. I think Milledgeville, like you said, they basically have to use the short passing routes as another tier to their run game.
Right.
To help open up the lanes, because let's be honest, size advantage favors Amboy big time in this game. And granted, size doesn't always win the game, but these guys aren't just big; they're very athletic, and they attack and pressure very well. We've seen that. And on top of that, both these teams, they've been the 2 teams we've talked about since leaving Monmouth last year. We came into this year knowing that these 2 teams were going to be the teams.
No, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Yeah, and nothing's changed our mind since week 1.
God, no.
So,
and whoever wins this game is going to be the favorite in Monmouth anyway.
Right. Without a doubt, for sure. So, here's the other thing. When Amboy has the ball, I assume, Kyle, Milledgeville's just going to stack the box. You're going to have 8 guys up. You cannot fall asleep, though, on Cody Wynn. You cannot fall asleep on that play-action pass. The other thing I'll say to that is, guys, we talked about Amboy's schedule. They really haven't had to show much since week 1. They probably have stuff they've been working on all season waiting for this game, if I was to guess. Like, there might be some stuff that Milledgeville has not seen, and that could go both ways, obviously, but Amboy hasn't had to show much of anything. They've just been doing what they do,
Amboy
to get to this 10-1 record.
What Milledgeville is showing throughout the course of the season.
Right, exactly.
And if you're Milledgeville, who's your best defensive back? Shank or Johnson?
I'll say it's Johnson, but Shanks, it's right there. He's right there.
You got to pick one, and his sole job is Cody Wynn, period.
Yeah, I agree.
Because who's the only passing option that they throw to?
That's it. They don't throw to anybody else.
So put your best guy on Cody Wynn all day. That's your job.
Yep, I agree. Totally agree.
That's what Milledgeville has to do defensively, and then they just have to be able to play 1/7 football for the other 7 guys and take care of their gap responsibilities and own it.
Right.
And they got the grit. But here's the thing, Amboy, they're charging hard, man. And when you got Lopez, Heath, and McCoy all ready to go, now you got to figure out who you're going to stop, where you're going to put your strength to, because they have the ability to run a straight wing style offense where they can attack one way and come back and counter the other.
Well, that's what worries me
Right.
when Milledgeville, what they've shown is that come hard defense right at you. And that's fine when you're playing some lesser teams, we'll say, on your schedule and you look like rock stars. But when you're playing a team with Amboy with 3 guys that can take it to the house at any point they touch the football,
Right.
gap control is huge, and it takes one guy to miss. And yep.
Yeah. I think we're probably, and I know week 1 is a lot different than what's going to happen in week 12, but guys, let's not forget the fact that week 1 game, Milledgeville shut out Amboy in that second half.
Oh no, I have not
I mean,
forgot that.
Let's not overlook that, because that no one else can say that. I mean, no one else has even thought about stopping Amboy, and Milledgeville shut him out for a whole half.
Well, let's be honest. Amboy hasn't played anybody to the stature of Milledgeville.
No, I agree. No, I understand that. I agree.
I mean,
I'm just saying,
we
Milledgeville's
haven't been
got
able
this-
to see an Amboy Polo matchup.
What's that?
We haven't been able to see an Amboy Polo matchup.
No, we have not.
We already know what Amboy would do with St. Anne because we just watched Polo do what they did with St. Anne.
Yeah, they'd run for about 400 yards.
And we just watched Amboy disassemble probably the number 2 best team in the south side of the state.
Right. But, and you got to remember too, Kyle, that first game, Amboy scored those 22 points. They're up 22-14 half, but 6 of those points were on a interception return, I believe, correct?
Yep.
So Milledgeville only allowed 14 points offensively to Amboy.
That is correct. Flanagan
I
had
feel like people that are
83-yard interception return.
I feel like everyone that's picking Amboy in this game's forgetting that fact, myself included. I don't think we can overlook that fact.
But let's look at
week
this
1
part.
again. Week 1 is way different than week 12. I get that.
So let's look at this part. And we talked about it in our preview shows leading into the season. Amboy was coming into the season as back-to-back state champs after losing all of these starters that had been key players on those back-to-back state championship teams.
Right.
And they were going to have to find new household names to get them where they needed to be.
They
And
found
those
them.
names have come about.
And Milledgeville brought back a core group who you would expect to be more ready.
Right.
Beginning of the year, where an Amboy,
Without a doubt.
playing their way from week 4 or 5,
And that's where the
and
growth,
finding themselves.
That's where the growth comes in, to where week 12 is way different than week 1.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree.
Yeah.
So, Joe, we'll start with you again.
Man, I don't know, Kyle. So on your
into going a different direction.
On your preview show, playoff preview show that night, we did that podcast, the night of the pairings release. I picked Amboy. On the Spotlight podcast I do on Sundays with Patrick and Bob, I picked Amboy.
But then you can't be
And
wrong.
if I sit here and I pick Milledgeville, everyone's just going to say I'm taking the easy way out. Oh, he picked Amboy, then he picked Milledgeville. That way you can't be wrong.
That's like being in 3 fantasy leagues.
Yeah.
You're not going to lose that.
All right. So who did Bob and Pat pick? We'll start there.
I think one picked Amboy, one picked Milledgeville, but I don't. For some reason, I don't remember.
I think Bob picked Milledgeville. Patrick went with Amboy.
You go though to Milledgeville. This is their team. This is the team they've been waiting for. These guys have been playing with a chip on their shoulder since last season. The schedule they've played has gotten them ready for this game.
This is the game they need.
This is the game you need. I picked Amboy already, but I don't know. I've had this thought all day leading up to this podcast. Might be turning the tide a little bit here. I mean, You really want to bet against Spencer Nye and Carl Livingood in a game of this magnitude?
Do I want to? No.
But
But I don't
right.
want to change my pick either.
Let's go back to Milledgeville's toughest game, not named Amboy, week 9 against North Shelby.
Yeah.
Let's hypothetically put Amboy in that game against North Shelby. Who do you pick in that one?
I'd probably pick Amboy.
Okay. I was hoping you'd say that because Amboy would be the favorite.
Yeah.
All right. So we're on the same page.
But
all right. I'll continue.
Since I've already picked Amboy, I'll stick with that pick. I think this is going to be a defensive bet. First time they played it was 30-22 in week 1. I think you're looking at something very similar, a 22-20 type of game. I mean, I'd be shocked if this was more than a 8-point game either way. But again, I'm like Jay, there's still a place in my heart for the very small schools. What a story it'd be if Milledgeville, enrollment 95, knocks off the 2-time champ and makes it to state. As much as I want to say Milledgeville here, guys, I'm going to stick with my original pick of Amboy. Amboy 22-20.
Jay?
I just feel one of two things is going to happen. Milledgeville's going to play the game that I want them to play and do the things that I want them to do, and they're going to pull out like a 24-20 win. You know, that's what I'm looking at, and that's what I'll go with. But I can also see an Amboy team putting 20 on them and winning like an 18-40 game or something like that with what they have going on and how they're playing football. But like I said, I'm not gonna waver from my pick because I'm picking more with want rather than smartness. And it's not gonna cost me anything on either side.
No.
Oh, this is their team. There's no doubt.
This is their team.
They've been waiting for.
They're a school of under 100. I appreciate those type of things, the work that gets put in and all that.
1,000%.
And like, would we say it was 95?
95 kids.
95 kids in that school. I believe in Coach Roble. I believe he's going to have those kids ready. They're going to play some tough ass football, and they're going to leave it all on the line. And I got a 24-20 win, Milledgeville.
That a boy.
Yeah. What, Kyle? Before you make your pick here, what an atmosphere this should be. I mean,
it's gonna
if you're from Amboy or Milledgeville, you're going to be at this game, right? Like, there's nothing else you have going on. Like, this place is going to be. I mean, this could set records. I mean, this is going to be. I
wish I was making the trip back to the harbor.
Yeah,
because obviously it's my place.
Kyle's place, the harbor.
This atmosphere.
The harbor.
Yeah, actually, both these atmospheres are going to be great. I mean, what South Fork does, and then the harbor.
Yeah.
I mean, what two better places could you ask for to have the semifinal games? I mean, this is great.
Okay, so both these coaches, I respect them and their staffs immensely for what they have to do. I think we've seen a lot of growth in Amboy over the time, and I agree. I think it's going to be a very close game. But I was so sold on Milledgeville last year, and then so much so that I even told Coach Elder and Coach Kirby and Coach Schwartz that I felt Milledgeville was going to win state last year. And then Amboy just pummels them. I think there's some underlying stories behind this game to where Amboy's going to reinforce what they've done the last 3 years, and that's get their way back to state. So I got to listen to Coach Powers mock me on the football field after they won state, rightfully so. So I'm not making fun of him. He deserved that because I called him out on the View from the West podcast. Well, not called him out, but I said, "Give me the missiles, baby." So what was funny is on the playoff show, we got to see Greg do the same thing. But also on the playoff show, I said I was not going against Amboy. I'm not going against Amboy this time either. As much as I agree with both of you, it'd be a great storyline to see Milledgeville finish the deal and win it all. And if they do win this game, I want to see them finish the deal and win it all and get that first state championship. I think that would be huge for their school, huge for the program, excellent for the coaching staff, Coach Roble, Coach Grenoble, Coach Caravia, all those guys. I think it would be awesome for them. But I just feel that Coach Payne and his staff have something up their sleeve to win this game. I think it's going to be close too. I do. I think it's going to be probably the best 8-man game of the year. And I think whoever wins it will likely put a good show on at state against whoever comes out of the other side of the bracket. And I hope that too is a great game. But these two teams, whoever wins this game is going to be the one that's favored when we get to state in another week. Give me the Clippers, baby!
Yeah, like I said, I would not be shocked, if Amboy finishes the deal with Milledgeville with where they're at, because where you're at week 1 is different than where you're at, week 12 right now. So wouldn't be shocked either. And like you said, they both do it the right way. They both play great football. They both, have been on here, and we've talked to Coach Payne and Coach Roble. Great coaches, great guys. You don't root against them, so, one team is unfortunately going to lose this game,
Right.
just like the other side, and have a great story of a great year, and they have, will have nothing to hold their heads down for, and that's what's tough this time of year. You got to have, there's a winner, and there's a loser. So, both games are going to be fantastic. You'll get to witness it right up front, Joe, down in South Fork.
Yeah, I'm excited. Can't wait.
Amboy's going to be packed for two of the best teams in 8-man, and that's what's so great about, I'll say it again, how 8-man does it.
Yes.
They
got
set
the
up
best 4 teams.
They set up the best 4 teams in the state, and the best
Mhm.
4 teams, I think, are playing for a state title.
Yep.
I love it. And to be quite honest, I honestly, I don't care who wins, because I'm all for a great game.
Yep.
And a great environment and a great state championship game on top of it. And I really, we talked about it back on the playoff show about this bracket, and we had different coaches on talking about how tough each parts of their quadrants were. And they were. It's been fun. I mean, once we got through the first round, because there were no real close games in that first round
No.
at all. I mean, they were
Pawnee, 42-30.
Yeah. And we kind of knew that was going to be the quadrant that was going to be just absolutely owned by Amboy, and they did.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest of them have all played out great. Really good. It's time. It's time to see the Final Four, and we got a great Final Four here. And it's great for the 8-man game in all. I think this has been probably the best year of 8-man football to date.
Oh, I agree 100%.
Yeah, whether you're an 8-man fan, 11-man fan, it will be good football in this. I mean, you talk about, there's bad football in the first couple rounds of 11-man, just like there's some bad football in 8-man first couple rounds. But good football, I've said it, good football is good football, and this is going to be good football. These 2 games, I mean, it is going to be fantastic. That good coaching staffs, great players that are all conference, all state players, littered throughout
Everywhere.
the rosters of all 4 teams left.
Yes.
That
Without a doubt.
this is where, though, like I said, the Mumfords make a name for themselves. What's George Bailey gonna do? And on the other side, Nye and which player from Amboy is gonna make their name. That's what it's gonna come down to in these games. A player is just going to have a day they're going to wake up on Saturday and not want to go to bed Saturday night.
Nope. It's going to be fun. Gosh, it's going to be fun. So there's a look at the bracket. There's the projected winners. Polo projected to win by 14. Amboy projected to win by 4.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a lot of fun. You had Milledgeville by 4?
I had Milledgeville 24-20.
And Joe, what'd you say? You said under 30 potentially for both scores?
I had Amboy 22-20.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a great game.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a great game.
Yep.
I think South Fork Polo is going to be a great game.
I really do. I think they both should live up to the hype. I'd be very surprised if they didn't.
Well, they're going to live up to the pregame hype. We already know that.
Yes.
All right. Well, that gives you a look at everything that we have IAFA football. So the next time you see us, we're going to be preparing for our trip to Monmouth. Joe, I was going to ask, you want to go live before you have to be live on the radio?
For Monmouth?
Yeah, we could do a YouTube live to preview the game down in Monmouth.
Yeah, we might be able to do something there. I think you and I were both on with Dwayne last year, so we'll have that
I
too,
meant before
probably.
his show too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we might be able to do something there. I'm usually there pretty early, so.
Like college game day.
Yeah.
You do like college, get a field goal post and everything, Joe.
So ideally, I'm trying to do what I want to do at 11-man state, and I'm taking the podcast equipment so we can actually go live from the press box.
Okay. Yeah, let's see if we can do it.
I'll even bring Jay if he's available. I don't know if he will be, though.
I'm always available for you, Kyle.
Oh, baby.
Always available, baby.
All right. Well, that gives you a wrap for this week. We hope you enjoyed the show. We gave you almost 2 hours worth of content just to talk about 2 games.
Yes.
But, man, it's going to be a great time. Get out to those games. Cheer for your teams. As always, root for the NUIC. We'll see you next week.